I mean, we all tend to meet at Buller's. You know, he got the wild late night show.
Those are awesome.
Yeah, we gotta love it. I see we got a lot of our friends in the chat, and I will get to you all shortly. But first of all, I want to say welcome to my wonderful and esteemed guest here. So glad to be able to have Lainie Petersen and Kit Cabello of Hard Lens. Those out there, you guys should definitely know them. If you are not subscribed, we're going to start off first and foremost. If you are not subscribed to Hard Lens Media, go over and do that now. And don't just subscribe. Click the notification bell.
Yep.
That is how you're alerted to the content. It is not enough to just, subscribe, because especially most of us are subscribed to multiple different channels, whether it's for politics, whether it's for religion, whether it's for gaming, whether it's for cooking. And so you have hundreds of different subscriptions. And the only way you're going to know you get those notifications is you got to tap the bell. Sometimes it'll be delayed, but it's a better chance that you get it. So this show I am very, very excited to get into. Those of you guys who know our channel, you guys will see that familiar face, Mr. Cabello down there, from an old interview. And as you guys can see, he's kind of grown in the shag, got the beard rocking nicely. And as you see,
I have to grow it out.
Oh yeah, you got to. Well, I call it. It's like a man's lion mane. You got to have that lion mane.
Exactly. That is 100% correct.
Yes, we're about positive masculinity here.
Absolutely.
There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and get this intro started. Yeah, and hopefully you guys enjoy. I don't know if you've seen it yet or not. This is my little intro that I created for the show.
All right, let's see it live and direct.
All right, here we go.
A question that you need an answer to. Hello, and thank you for joining me.
This is the political matrix.
Bookmarks, because these words did not come from us.
Mostly kidding. Mostly.
Ham and the garlic aioli.
And then they're going to change the narrative to Black Lives Matter to all Black Lives Matter, and then they're going to talk about LGBT.
So I felt like I wanted to put a couple of clips together.
Seltzer all day long. I love that shit.
Doesn't matter where we are. We obviously came up in there.
You know how he treats them. He don't treat them nice at all. He real rough with them, and you was a good man.
Our budget, so much more, are forming this weird cabal.
Yeah, it's not. None of them are.
Do the Chinese own part of that?
So he picked Masvidal. So I have Kobe tonight. Whether it's Biden, whether it's Obama, just sitting up there.
There are people in the Green Party that can organize. No, they can organize. They usually just get blackballed by their own party too.
Taking orders from the private industry here.
You know, like I said, people come on here and they can say stuff they don't normally say on their own shows, which is fine.
And
I
this
was surprised at that younger version of Neighbors.
You forgot.
I forgot. You know what? This look is staying on for a while. I'm not going back to that. That has served its purpose. This is now Bearded Kit.
It served its purpose. That's like preteen Kit. Like, this is grown man Kit now. And so we like this version. We're rocking with this version. So let's give a couple of shout outs before we get started. We have Miguel H out there. How we doing? Pieces to you. Extra Bulla, Uncle Warren, always good to see you. Says this is going to be another fire show. Yes, it is power packed. Ruth Maplethorpe, nice to see you in here. Dolores Pierce, hello. I see Lainie there down in the chat doing double duties tonight on the panel in the chat. Gotta love it. Variant, how are we doing? Let's see who else. I see some more of our friends in there. John, my brother, how are we doing, sir? Fists are in the air. E. Heller, yes, I've been seeing E. Heller more and more often. So glad to see you here.
Very good, gentlemen. There we go.
And E. Heller said also set your mobile devices. Sorry, the helicopters are going over as usual. It is California. Mobile devices to remind yourself that Heartlands Media is live Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Central. That is 2 p.m. Eastern, and that would Pacific, and that would be 5 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you guys keep that in mind for whichever time zones you are in. Yes, because I'll leave the last part out. I don't want them attacking me already. Atres, good to see you. Anthony, how are we doing? Baba Yaga Prepper, good to see you. Hamza, always good to see all of these lovely and wonderful faces. Yipper99, and who else? And for all of those who are not chatting in the comment, but you are listening, shout out to you and glad to see you. John says Chi-Town in the house. Yes, John is out of Chicago also. So
Excellent.
that is definitely sweet. And I tell people I love the city of Chicago. Love it dearly.
Thank you, my friend.
Tonight, I guess we got Yona in there. Hey, Yona. But tonight's show, we got a little bit of everything. I noticed that a lot of things that we've been talking about recently, they've been talking about a lot of the similar things over at Heartlands, and I feel like, it'd be interesting to get Kit back in here. It's been a while since I got to talk to him, and then we've been having such a good rapport with Lainie in the chats and the DMs. So I was like, you know what, that'd be cool to be able to bring both of them on, and they were available to do it, and so much appreciated, to have them both here. We got let's see, what all do we have? Let's lay out the topics first before I forget everything. We're gonna definitely have a little bit of fun with the Dave Chappelle stuff. Altercation. We gotta talk about that. I'm dying to hear your thoughts, both your thoughts on that. Me and Chris, we talk all week, so we know the craziness. Hey, Steve Cutler. We also are going to talk about because before like a lot of this Supreme Court leak came out, I had already had my eyes on trying to get Kit back on because of politics and trying to figure out where we kind of stand, where he sees it as far as the midterms and kind of like how that's all shaping up. So we want to talk about that. We want to talk about Chris Smalls and after the ALU victory to the DC, DC Capitol Hill exchanges, and where do we see, all of those things at now? Let's say at Dingo Aiton Baby, welcome to see you also. So we got that, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Roe versus Wade, and I'll go ahead and tip my hand a little. We're going to have a little bit of I don't know. I have a nuanced perspective on it all. I mean, because I'll tell everybody I don't vote, so don't worry about my vote at all on how I feel, and because I've always been kind of mixed. Believe it or not, years ago, what I used to say is, I think we should just get all the women who vote in the country, and then let the women vote on it, and whatever they come down with, I'm cool with that. I don't want to get in between any in the middle of any fighting women ever. It's not a wise idea. So Jason Rodriguez, good to see you also. So I figure let's talk a little bit about that Dave Chappelle first. What are some? Oh yeah, that's right. R.I.P. Kevin Samuels, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh yes, Kevin Samuels.
Yes.
Passed away. I've heard about
I'm very sorry to hear about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Condolences to his family and his friends. Sorry for your loss.
Everything that Kit just said, absolutely.
Yeah, a lot of people know, and you know what? Let's go ahead and go talk about it a little bit. For those who aren't familiar with Kevin Samuels, what he did sometimes was often looked at abrasive from some people, but what he was doing is, I feel, very important, especially in the Black community. He's a big part of what they call the Black manosphere, which, as Lainie knows, the other night I was like, I don't really know what that term means on a video I was covering, but I've done a little bit more research on it. And because of some of the things which have happened, as a result of the conditions in here for, the descendants of slavery, African Americans, descendants of slavery, how it's kind of broken the structure of the community and a lot of the thinking, and just things have never really gotten on track. And so as more and more of the women in the community have started to make more money, as a lot of the men dealing with the whole mass incarceration thing it's been a struggle and a pressure on them. It's made the family dynamics get really out of whack. And so without having any leaders, especially after, the Martin Luther Kings, the Medgar Evers, the A. Philip Randolphs have like been taken out, there hasn't been any real leadership in the communities to kind of tell us, or help us re-examine and look at different things and be a thought leader. And that's kind of what I felt he was. He told men and women alone, like, he'd be like, well, Marcus, you're only making, say, let's throw out a random number, $700 a month, but yet you think that you need to be with a supermodel who's a millionaire.
Mm-hmm.
You need to readjust and look at what you're bringing to the table and assess your own value. And through assessing your own value or trying to improve your own value, then you can meet with those partners, with that kind of partner which you would want. And so I felt like it gave great advice and real, I guess, realism to people to understand, and help build, a lot of the Black families and Black relationships. So, definitely RIP to him. Go ahead, Kit.
I've seen a couple of his videos, and you know what? Here's the thing. He speaks the truth from his own perspective, his own opinion. And look, I'm all for free speech, and I will be the last person to tell anyone what they can or should do with their channel. But if you're going to come in there with a chip on your shoulder on the Kevin Samuels show, he's going to humble you. And simple as that. It didn't matter whether you were a man or a woman or the color of your skin. If you were going to come in there with an ego, he spoke the truth from his own perspective and assessment. And if you didn't like it, well, then get thick skin. That's it. So if you're going to try and do any of that silliness with his show, but that was his show, and he had a very successful content. He had very successful content. He had a huge following, and unfortunately, dying at the age of 56. I'm
too young.
Really, because I again, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but apparently his own mother found out through social media and not through like anybody else. So she found it out on social medias, which again, look, I'm not asking people to because I saw some people like jumping for joy that he passed away, which I gotta say, all right, if you're so triggered by what somebody said on their own channel, don't watch it then.
Yeah.
Okay. But he wasn't hurting anybody. He was just giving his own perspectives and point of view. And the thing is, in this day and age of social media, to give out content, you have to be consistent, but also you really have to firmly believe what you're doing. And look, Kevin Samuels had, while however long he was on this world, a good, prosperous life, and he had a very good show. And unfortunately, he's gone. And again, condolences to his family. But there's someone's content I was watching. I was like, okay, I see his perspective. Maybe for me, because sometimes a little bit of a soft heart, I'll be like, all right, you didn't have to punch that person. Take it easy just a little bit. You didn't have to hit him that hard, buddy.
Yeah, you could have gave him a jab. You gave him a hook. I mean,
no, more a jab, more of like,
yeah.
There you go. Anyways.
Yeah.
No, you're dead. You're dead on, Kid. I was wondering, Lainie, Chris, do you guys have any thoughts?
Well, a couple of things that I would personally say is first of all, my heart goes out to his mother and to his friends and his family. I believe very strongly that one of the hallmarks of being a human being is that you honor your dead. You honor the dead. And for people to publicly celebrate the death of somebody who they didn't even know is abhorrent, and they need to stop doing that. So that I'm gonna put that over there. This man did what he did, and he said what he said, and that's a right that we do have in the United States. And from what I don't, not super familiar with him, but I remember some of the things that he was talking about, and I think that he may have been shall we say, punching in certain directions because, like anybody, you want to attract attention. and that does happen. But I think that there are also a couple of things that need to be considered here. And one of the things that he talked about was there's an economic factor to pairing up with people. And in fact, on our show on Thursday, Kit and I were talking a bit about Roe versus Wade, and I offered some of my thoughts. But one of the things that I pointed out is that if you are going to, one of the things I pointed out is that if any kind of social movement that wants to support marriage, you have to consider that consistently when people talk about what led to divorce or marital stress or breakdown, it's economics. So when you have an economic strain, people are economically strained and stressed, that's going to break down marriages. So talking about the importance of, hey, look, if you're going to pair off with somebody, you're going to have to be at least prepared to uphold your end of the economic picture of your family, which is harder and harder to do because of social factors. And I'm going to admit that right here, but that's an important thing to talk about. There's other things to talk about too. Attraction is attraction.
Yep.
And people usually don't have a lot of choice about who they're attracted to. Now, I will agree that there's another uglier fact of attraction, which is sometimes people are attracted to somebody who may not enhance their social stature, so they reject that person for that reason. That's unfortunate, because there can be some happy and healthy relationships there between people who seem to be unequal, but they are compatible in other ways, and people will reject that because they're afraid what other people are going to think about them. And that's its whole other issue. But I think that he was trying to parse out these nuances. And I think sometimes we try to simplify things to appeal to a mass audience. That may have been what he was doing, maybe not. I don't know. I didn't know the man. But I think he was trying to speak some truth. And certainly, it's important to respect somebody who has passed away. And I know he had an impact, so I'm very sorry to hear about this.
Yeah, the only caveat I put in there is if they are responsible for mass death, then we can kind of let them go. The Kissingers of the world, we can.
And the Nobel Prize Committee.
Somehow that guy's still alive. How come Kissinger's still alive? What deal did he make with the devil? That's what I want to know.
Meyer Lansky. Think about Meyer Lansky. This is a guy who was responsible for murder, mayhem, all kinds of misery, never spent a night in jail, and died peacefully in his sleep.
Yeah, well, see, Meyer, we're gonna have to talk about. We're gonna have to do a show about mobsters. We're gonna have to talk about mobsters because, like, I got my thoughts and theories on Meyer there. But go on. Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say Herbert Walker got to die, calmly too, peacefully too. Like go figure. Going into Kevin Samuels, I've watched a lot of his content. A lot of it was his delivery that would push people either to love him or hate him. There's a lot of he touched on a lot of personal things for people, right? And as it stands in relationships, obviously he was discussing women, right? Black women in particular, as Black women in particular in the modern era and their expectations, etc., etc. Some of his delivery was warranted, some of it wasn't. Again, I say this as someone who's watched the show, a bunch of times. He fit a niche. He served the people who were interested in taking in that kind of information and that kind of content. So it was cool. I don't feel one way. I didn't hate him. I didn't love him. I did think there was some value in what he was saying. I mean, you can learn a lot of things from many different spaces and places. But what I did find nasty was just all the vitriol online. People were basically doing backflips. Well, some people in the community were doing backflips because he died because they just didn't like what he had to say. I think maybe Kid or even Lainie said it. If you don't like something, you find it offensive, don't watch it. Don't listen to it. We live in this era where people look to watch things just so they can be offended, just so they can cry about it after the fact. If you were one of those women I mean, if you're not one of those women who he was discussing, right? Maybe in a negative light, why are you offended by it? You should, it doesn't apply to you. It's just like hearing people say things about men. If it doesn't apply to me, I'm not offended. You know, it's, you know, like I said, it's a complex thing that we're talking about. Well, what Kevin talked about, you know, relationships in the 21st century, you know, there's a lot of things to consider. Lainey touched on several of them. Attractiveness is one, finances is two, your life situation. Do you have kids? Do you want kids? Do you, you know, all of these things add up. But at the end of the day, just try to be good to each other. Just try to be respectful towards one another. And you may, you know, run into less problems. Also for men, stop chasing thoughts. I mean, if you're looking at instant thoughts, you're going to run into instant thought problems. I mean, and the same goes for women.
Yeah.
If you're chasing a thought, you're gonna have thought problems. So, you know, what they used to say: govern yourselves accordingly, right?
Yep.
Make wise choices.
Agreed, 100%. Look, the thing is, look, I think with social media, and again, Chris, it's hard to follow up with everything that you said, but the only thing I can add to it is let me start over. In this day and age of social media, where we are bombarded with how we should be or how we should act, I think a lot of us are overwhelmed with the guilt of, oh no, I'm stuck in the mud. Oh no, look, I'm guilty of this too. Oh no, I'm not where I need to be. No. You are where you need to be at your own pace. And the first thing you have to do is you have to take care of yourself and you have to love yourself first. Because if you can't take care of yourself first, because I've always heard this order, it's first it's God, family, country, then yourself. No. It has to be you. You can't take care of yourself. You can't love yourself. You can't take care of no family. You can't help your friends. You can't help your country. Hell, you can't even help out God if you don't love yourself. The priority is one, loving yourself and where you need to be as an individual. And I learned that the hard way. And my friends and family actually stepped up, Lainie included. I remember, you know, I don't want to go too much into it, but I realized, you know what? I'm good where I'm at. I don't need to meet up to society's standards. I'll get to my own standards in my own way. And that's something everyone needs to realize. And sometimes you have a Kevin Samuels come around and smack you upside the head and tell you the truth. And the truth hurts. But if it's the truth, then you have to live with it. And you have to go on and make your peace in this world however which way you can. Because guess what? We're only here once. And after that, we're gone. No one is guaranteed a full life. And you have to make every second, every minute count. But the first step is building yourself up. Only then can you find someone that can match your pattern to your standards. So, folks, just love yourself. Don't worry about the image. Everything is fake on Instagram. Okay, everything is fake on Instagram. Don't worry about it. Anyways, Chris.
No, kid. You know, just to follow that up, I just wanted to say, you know, Instagram is, out of all of the, I have an IG account. I really don't use it much. It's really for my family. They send me a bunch of jokes and shit. We laugh. With that being said, it is really altering how people look at themselves, how they look at each other. They're not putting any thought into it. They're like, so much of this shit is fake. Speaking of fake, I mean, look, since we're on entertainment news, we're about to go into Chappelle. I want to just touch real quick on the Ray J shit. Ray J came out this week and just said, hey, you know, that Kim K tape and all that shit. Guess what? It was never leaked. We put that out. Me, Kim, and Kris Jenner, we got together. We had this idea. And Kris Jenner went to Vivid Entertainment. For those who don't know, Vivid's a porn producer, right? They went there, they made a deal
here back in the day.
But you know, they went out and they made a deal, they put the tape out, and they've all been making money all this time. Ray J was upset at something that occurred on the Kardashians Hulu show. But going back to your point, Kid, all that shit is fake. And we need to not make that such an important part of our life. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah, I mean, The one thing that we always what we've been finding out more and more is the more things we look at and the more things that we've settled on to be absolute truths. Even some of these things we have to like test and like, are we certain, 100% certain on these things? Like it, which alludes to like a video that we're going to show coming out later on, that somebody admitting to some, like for instance, perfect example. You guys would definitely know about this being from Chicago. I'm trying to remember his name right now. I can't believe I'm blanking so hard, but the kid who went down south, he was murdered brutally. Emmett Till.
Emmett Till, yeah.
Emmett Till, the woman who accused him, what was that? Maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, she came out and admitted that she was lying.
Of course, she was lying. Of
Mhm.
course, she was lying. Emmett Till didn't do that.
Exactly.
Well, even if it did, it doesn't justify
It doesn't
what
warrant
happened
that,
to him. That doesn't warrant any of it. I've heard some reporting back and forth about that, about whether it was actually a convention from her or whether it was a journalist. I don't know, but and I think it's important, but I think it's also important to note that nothing ever justified what happened to that young man, that boy. Never, ever.
You know,
It was appalling. Period.
True. Very true. And again, here's the thing. Here's how I knew those accusations were again false, especially growing up as a young man, reading To Kill a Mockingbird, especially with the court case. And it turns out the lady just wanted to have her shish robe moved. All right. And then she set up that innocent man for a crime he didn't commit. And so again, how many times have we seen that way back when, in the 1900s, 1920s, 1930s, 1940s? I mean, where lynching was still happening, especially as we were progressing into the 60s and 70s. But the thing is, we're still seeing, again, deplorable actions being taken. And you know what, folks? It's very important that due diligence and integrity is needed. And this is why I want to continue my call for more journalists, independent media, commentators like yourself, Chris, like you, Marcus, to do this. I want to see this nationwide. It shouldn't just be just one group all around, or whether on one location of the country. It should be nationwide. That's what I'm looking for.
Well, I always say that I look at all of the different channels. It's almost like creating a version of Voltron. You know, each one of us have a part that we're playing to amass to fight against this giant system, or like I like to call it, the beast system that we're fighting. And so we all have to be able to form together. And if we get this mentality that, well, it only needs to be, this channel or that channel or this content creator or this journalist, instead of pulling all the information from all the different sources to use them as a whole, then we'll always keep going down the issues which the left as a whole has been going through, as they lost over and over and over. And if you really think about it, honestly, since about back to Roe v. Wade was the last time that the left really won anything. I mean, pretty much since then, they've lost on almost every single issue, going on and on and on. In fact, what you brought up, Kit, reminded me of a video which I did, talking about how a lot of these things were fabricated, not true. I did a video going through many of the different events that happened that were like, let's say like Tulsa or Greenville, Oklahoma. Those destructions. I went through ones in Mississippi. I went through ones in Louisiana, ones in Florida, ones in New York, ones in Philadelphia. I mean, all over the country. And one of the number one things I saw that corresponded, that was similar to all these things, somebody started off lying about something, fabricated this information, riled up a whole crew of people, and that's how all of these things got going. And they all spin out of control, whether it's for voting, whether it's they believe that these two Army veterans are going to pass out guns to blacks, whatever it was. It always started with some. Oh yeah, I saw your eyes tweak up a little, Kit. Yeah, that's one of them back then. They believed that two vets coming home from World War I was going to pass out weapons to the impoverished blacks, and the blacks were going to start fighting the white town. And that's what they used to go door to door to door and start rounding up people and lynching them and all of those things. And so that's the reason why it's important that we try to always fight for the truth as much as possible and go in that direction. So I guess I'll leave it on that one. I want to say a couple of shout outs. I see a couple of people, more friends hopping in there. I see you. And definitely Signs. Signs has been one of our day ones for a long time. Followed us when we only had like 2 or 3 people in there. DJ Elf, let's not play too silly tonight. Matt Markstis, my good friend, thank you so much for being here also. But let's bring up the Dave Chappelle situation. Chris, would you like to explain it for everybody who is not familiar and get everybody in the crowd familiar if they have been hiding up under a rock this week and have not heard about it?
Well, you know, Dave Chappelle was at a super exclusive show. I think that was in California, right? It was, you know, he was
Hollywood Bowl.
Super exclusive show. I mean, front row had, you know, Mr. Twitter himself. You know, I had the Queen of the Beehive. You know, I had the King of Marcy Projects there. For those who don't know, I'm talking Elon Musk, Jay-Z, Beyonce, right? So, you know, this is obviously the cream of the crop when it comes to like celebrities. With that being said, this man rushed the stage and tried to like tackle Dave Chappelle at this show. I mean, Marcus, if you got the pictures of the guy on the gurney.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring up this clip because it's very, very interesting. Hey Jack, how are we doing, sir? Jack Sith, one of my good colleagues and brothers out there.
You know,
let's pull this up. So you've explained it. They're gonna, let's just let the video, because you know what they say, you know, the picture's worth 1,000 words. I feel like this video is worth 1,000,000 right here. Let it go.
Yo. God damn.
Whenever you're in trouble, Jamie Foxx will show up in the sheriff's hat.
Oh.
Well,
it was a trans man.
Oh shit.
I
didn't hear that part. Shit. Oh, you know they're gonna kill him for that. He may as well just kill himself right now.
Was that Will Smith?
Holy shit. Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I figured that I would show that little clip there, give you guys a little context.
I mean, the guy had, I mean, I don't know about him, but he brought a knife in there. He rushed him. He got his ass beat pretty good by security who was there, right? They they beat his ass real good. His forehead looked like he had a forehead, right?
Forehead had a forehead.
When you were done with him, his arm looked like it was bent, you know, in the wrong direction. I did notice in the picture though his nails were painted, so I did wonder if he was somebody from that particular.
No,
community.
he wasn't.
Oh, okay. I was just, just wondering again because given his last special, some people in that community had an issue with Dave.
Believe it or not, you want to know why? Because Dave actually asked to talk to him, and what the young man said was, he said that his he said that his and this is why I wanted to bring this up, because it's so many issues within this little incident. We have somebody rushing the stage. That's not cool. And I'll be honest for those out there in the crowd, if you guys see me in person, if you have something to say to me, well, I'm very approachable. Speak to me. But if you charge me with violence, I'm going to beat your ass. Period.
As you should.
It's no joke. If it gets physical, it gets physical. I used to box, so obviously I'm somebody who like to walk into the ring and try to punch people. So violence is not beneath me at all. But and that said, I feel like they almost needed to. He needed his ass whipped to that level to set an example. But then when I heard other things about this guy's reasoning and about this guy's situation in general, it made me have a lot of I feel like, you know what, they can kind of just let him go. I feel like, you know, the beating that he got and, you know, the whole experience of being kind of embarrassed and taken to jail, you let him sit in there a couple of months or whatever, but let's not wreck this young man's life, because what he said was he was trying to get attention because his grandmother was losing her home and her community is being gentrified. I was like, so now this brings up gentrification. This brings up also, he's originally from New York, moved from New York to LA. He's been homeless since he was 12 years old, and he's currently homeless. And so that makes me think about the society that we're in, that, you know, that is okay with homelessness and okay with pushing people out of their homes. I mean, if somebody has wealth and they want to go and buy parts of a community and build it up, that's fine. But the city needs to also think about, how can we solve the problem of these people not having affordable living, which cause and leads to homelessness. Because I don't know if you guys know about LA. LA has a really bad homelessness problem. I know Chicago does also. I know Chris is from New York originally. It has a bad problem there. And so I feel like through this situation, it helps highlight some other issues that aren't often, you know, looked into or talked about.
Okay. First, let's talk about rushing the stage. I didn't like when Will Smith slapped Chris Rock, and I sure as hell didn't like when this individual went after Dave Chappelle, because he had a fake gun on him, but he also had a very real knife. Now, let's say he was able to successfully tackle Dave Chappelle. We don't know what would have happened. And when you're going to act stupid like that to a top-tier celebrity, number one, you better expect security to lay down the law. And then number two, look, gentrification is a very serious issue. We've covered it a lot in Heartland's media, especially in the South and West Side areas in Chicago, and even for our YouTube channel, Chicago Corner. But if you're going to use that kind of talking point, that very important thing called gentrification, you're going to use it and attack a celebrity to bring awareness to it, you're only hurting the cause to it. Now, everything bringing out the fact that neighborhoods, especially working class communities, are being gentrified. You need to bring awareness to it. If you want to hurt the movement, make a stupid attack towards Dave Chappelle and then become a meme on the internet. Because right now, to your point, he was trying to bring awareness to gentrification. Do you think that messaging is going to overlap over all the memes and all the videos out there and every single YouTube channel that's right now making fun of him for this? That's going to die on the vine. He has become a meme. And because of his own foolishness, he got what was coming to him. He should never have done that. We have no idea what would have happened if he successfully tackled Dave Chappelle. Would he have pulled out that knife? Would he have pulled out that gun? What was he going to do? We don't know. But he had obviously brought those two things with him to do something. And let's say
just for correction, it technically was a knife, a folding knife that looked like a gun.
Oh, it's a folding. Even then.
But still, he like your point. He could
do.
have stabbed him with that knife. Still.
Yeah, whatever he was going to do, again, he shouldn't have done. And look, here's the thing too. When it comes down to comedians and Dave Chappelle's show that he had on Netflix, his comedy especially on Netflix, if you don't like a comedian, if you don't like a show, if you don't like a movie, no one is forcing you at gunpoint in America to watch it. You have a million options. You don't like it, change the channel, unsubscribe. That's all you have to do. There is nothing stopping you from looking away. You don't like Dave Chappelle? Don't watch his stuff. There's comedians who I don't watch, but I'm not going to say cancel, or, oh, I'm going to jump on the stage. No, I'm going to be a grown adult and be like, okay, I don't like your stuff. Tuning off, walking away.
Yeah. This stuff always happens to celebrities. Like, when is somebody going to like rush a politician like this? You know, like somebody who actually like affects their life through the decisions that they make in their capacity as a politician or, you know, owner of a company or something like that. I mean, I would think, you know, I would think those would be the people that you would really want to get at, not a comedian, because as Kid said, you can fucking change the channel. You can go find content that will just reaffirm every feeling you have, every thought you have, you know, completely lose yourself in your own freaking bubble. Why you want to step into an arena where you're not, you know, comfortable in, it makes no sense. It just really weird as hell. And let me just say this real quick. Yo, Ed, I see you in the chat. Yo, what's the issue, bro? Like, relax. We always gotta tell you to chill out. Just chill, son. If you need to roll up a big one, do that. Just chill. Anyway, let's get back to it. Lainie, go ahead.
You know, I was going to say, I mean, I think Kit said a lot. Everybody said some really good stuff here. And I'm going like, because I'm older, going back into the late 80s, early 90s, and I was predicting around the issue, and matter of fact, we're going to talk about tonight, the abortion issue. I was predicting what is now called stochastic terrorism. So the idea is back in the 80s and in the early 90s, we had these lone wolves who were attacking abortion clinics and abortion providers. They were bombing clinics, they were kidnapping people, they were murdering people, and I said, and you had all the anti-abortion groups, the big anti-abortion groups would come out there and say, oh, we decry this sort of behavior, but they would use inflammatory language that would inspire marginalized individuals, in many cases, people who were poor, people who were mentally ill, to undertake these acts of violence against people who provided abortions. And I predicted that this was just going to continue over time. And what we've seen, I think it's kind of morphed into in recent years is, again, you have people using language that is inflammatory, and it's not just about abortion, but all kinds of issues. And people get more and more upset, and there's tensions that's rising. And then you will have individuals who may feel that they have nothing left to lose. They were saying this gentleman who attacked Dave Chappelle was homeless, had a grandmother who was being pushed out due to gentrification, and that inflames tensions, and people are just more likely to do what I call popping off. And in fact, Kit will tell you that during the recent the global health emergency that we've been having, I was seeing more and more people just popping off, people just physically assaulting, not yelling, not accusing, not using their words, but using fists or other weapons in various contexts. And what does concern me here is that, okay, this starts happening, people get more tense, people get more afraid, they get more hypervigilant. That can lead to people making stupid calls to law enforcement. It can lead to people overreacting in various ways, being frightened, and instead of de-escalating situations, overreacting. And that really does concern me. Obviously, I don't like what happened to Dave Chappelle. I like Dave Chappelle. But, this is, to me, this is a sign of the times.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be that way. So many people are, especially at the height of Trump's presidency, when he first got elected, so many people were on board of canceling comedians, canceling everybody or anything that was going up against whatever the message was during the time. But here's the thing: if you're going to act like a Puritan, eventually people get tired of that puritanical bullcrap. And for those of you who don't know, the Puritans were the fantastic Pilgrims. And the Pilgrims weren't persecuted out of England. They were told to get the hell out because people were tired of their crap. When the Puritans killed King Charles I, they had their little government. And they instituted very harsh draconian laws. You couldn't drink, you couldn't smoke, prostitution was illegal, Shakespeare was made illegal. You couldn't have fun. They canceled Christmas. They canceled Christmas before anyone else here in America ever did anything like that. They canceled Christmas. And it got to the point to where everyone was like, what's the point of living? So long story short, they were told to get the F out of England, come here to America, and they brought that puritanical nonsense. But see, the thing is, the puritanical nonsense is not only just embedded into our democracy and embedded into our culture, but it's embedded into a lot of activist groups too. And during 2016, there was this cancel this, cancel that, everything else. But then again, you see the hypocrisy of being a Puritan, because look what happened with Me Too and Time's Up. Only certain individuals were allowed to do Me Too and Time's Up, as it turned out, because let's face it, Cuomo and Biden, who were Democrats, were shielded from any kind of criticism, whereas Republican lawmakers that did deplorable things towards women were put on the chopping block. Make it equal. Don't just favor the Democrats because they make you feel good or they say nice things. And this thing towards Dave Chappelle, he's a comedian. The art of comedy is to point out the flaws in human society. And if you want to be a successful comedian, you got to ridicule everything, from the most sacred to the most honorable to the most best bastions of humanity. It is open for ridicule because guess what? It reminds us that everything that we have done was done by regular people. The King of England, the President of the United States, the Prime Minister of Russia, the Pope of Rome, the Emperor of Japan, they're all humans. They're all people. Celebrities, actors, actresses, YouTube commentators, we're all people. And it's all open for ridicule. Dave Chappelle should not be canceled.
Nope. I mean,
because you don't like their work, should not be allowed. If you don't like it, don't watch it. And if you're trying to give a message about gentrification, don't be an idiot and charge at somebody, because otherwise, if you screw up, and chances are you probably will, you will get the beating that you rightfully deserve. I have no sympathy for him because, again, with that knife, I don't know what he could have done. We don't know.
We don't know.
Tackle Dave Chappelle. We don't know.
Or even just to tackle the wrong way. Even if he doesn't get the knife out, he hits its head the wrong way.
Did
How
they?
many times? Go ahead, Chris.
I was saying, did they even press charges against that guy?
Yes, they pressed charges, but they decided to not go for the felony charges, so misdemeanors.
You know what I was going to say is that I want to say it's probably once a year, maybe even a little more than that I read a news story, I hear a news story about somebody who gets into some kind of random altercation. Somebody falls, hits their heads, and they die, and then it turns into a homicide. People don't realize that any kind of blow to the head can be devastating, even if it's just, you think it's just a punch or a shove or something. It's a lot more, the head's a lot more delicate than people realize.
Bob Saget.
I was just thinking about that.
Yeah, he fell. He felt like it was nothing. Went on perfectly fine, then start having a headache later on in the day, and doesn't wake back up.
And Natasha Richardson.
Yeah.
Liam Neeson's wife, daughter of Vanessa Richardson. Yeah, I mean, that's what happened to her. She had a skiing accident, thought her head, went to bed, and that was it. And so the head is a lot more complex than people realize.
Well, and then somebody brought up in there, I think it was Matt Marx's, brought up about Monica Seles. I remember that, 93, when she got stabbed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we never know what these people are going to do. And people, I mean, honestly, I look at it like this. Maybe it's just grew up in a different community. I feel like maybe it's a different era also. All of us are over 35 except for Lainie. So we remember what it's like to have the mama jokes and stuff, and have to deal with just being ridiculed by each other. Or remember the days when you go to school with the hand-me-downs and you got picked on, and we didn't decide, okay, now I need to come back to school and kill everybody because that happened.
You know what it is? There's you know what? This is gonna be controversial, but sometimes look in life, there's this right now what I'm seeing is there's this padded cell being put around society to where, don't do anything that will offend. But in life, you're going to run into somebody that's a complete jerk.
Yeah.
That's not a good person. And shielding young people away from that, it's not a good idea. In life, you're going to need bullies to put people in check, but more importantly, so that people can get thick skin and be able to be more mature and not engage with the foolishness.
Life is about conflict at time, right?
Yeah.
It's not a smooth ride. You're going to run into conflict. People have to learn how to deal with that, as opposed to just, running off into a corner. Oh my God, they said mean things about me now. I'm broken. I can't do anything because they hurt my fucking feelings. Sorry, but you need to develop a little bit of tougher skin, because the world is not a soft and easy place. Your boss is going to tell you at one point in time that you screwed up, that you're not doing a good job, that you need to do better. If you play sports, your coach is going to tell you that you're screwed up, you're not playing well, you need to get your head in the game, so on and so forth. If you're in a relationship, your significant other is going to tell you that you're messing up, you're not doing what you're supposed to do. You could get mad over it and cry and throw fits or what have you, but you do need to learn how to deal with situations that are less than ideal for you.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, Chris, but I want to add on to what you said. Look, and here's the thing. Sometimes you need that conflict so that you realize, oh, I screwed up. I have to be better. Because when I look at Heartland's media, we start off with this Galaxy S7 cell phone. There were people out there that told us, Daniel and I specifically, give up. That's a nice hobby that you got. You will always be the guys on the outside looking in. Oh, you want to get your own studio. That's a joy. Right? And then again, too, you got to deal with that. On social media, we get negative hate all the time. And the thing is, I got to deal with that. There is nothing I could say to make all the bad people go away. No, that's not going to happen. You want to know what? So that's not the real world we live in. And there are other larger channels that deal with far more bigger hate than I can only ever even think about. But the thing is, also, too, there's the ability of, in the studio, if something's not working right, we have to have a meeting like, okay, how do we fix this? How do we do that? Oh, you messed up on this. There's been a lot of things I've had to learn being the CEO now of Heartland's Media in Chicago, Florida. And there's some stuff where it's like, am I doing this right? I'm talking to and everything else. And it's just sometimes, look, if I'm the person that has to owe up any kind of screw ups to Heartlands or Chicago Corner. The buck is on me. It ends with me. And the thing is, you need that reality check. But that doesn't give you the right to all of a sudden go ahead and start taking that out on the world and assaulting people or going on stage to try and make a message. I'm glad Dave Chappelle is still alive. Yeah. I dread to think of how that whole altercation could have turned out. And I guess Dave Chappelle's a better man because he's not pressing all the full charges, the felony charge on him. But maybe I'm far more harsher.
Well, it's not even Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle's kind of like, he's not even really pressing the charges. He just has his lawyer there to speak on his behalf. It's the city that's doing it. And so city and county that are pressing the charges. And so now Dave Chappelle did advocate for the restraining order.
Yes, which makes sense. Yeah.
As he should.
And if you do anything like in that area, the City Bowl or the Hollywood Bowl, he is banned from that area also. And so the restraining order extends to all of that whole entire area. And so the officials, you know, the local county officials, state officials, and city officials, their mindset is, this is LA. This is supposed to be a place where entertainers can come do their craft, whether it's acting, singing, you know, comedy, whatever, and not have to feel fear of an attack or danger or anything like that. And so they want to crack down on their own to a certain level to dissuade this kind of behavior, so that people don't feel like, you know, like how, like John said earlier in the chat, how Will Smith kind of encouraged this behavior. And I've heard so-called leftists happy about Will Smith walking up and doing that. And yeah, I won't go back in and rehashing my thoughts on it, but I hated it for so many reasons. So many reasons. And if you're somebody who's been in Hollywood for over 30 years, been in the public eye, you should be able to take a certain amount of criticism. I feel like all four of us on this panel have taken our fair share of criticism from people. And if we can handle it at the level that we're at, and not doing it nearly as long as somebody like a Will Smith, he should be able to handle it 10 times better than us. And also, he's getting hundreds of millions of dollars, part of dealing with that kind of level of scrutiny and attention.
Yeah.
Again, so sorry, Lainie, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say a couple of things. I mean, everybody's been saying some really good points, making some very good points here. I'd say, first of all, resilience is something that we have to learn to become people of character. And it's not always easy, because some of us didn't grow up. Some folks did not grow up in supportive households. You didn't learn boundaries. You didn't learn how to stand up for yourself. But resilience is something that everybody needs to develop over time. And that can mean, in some cases, as Chris said, learning to accept criticism and to, you know, okay, take that in and assess it and weigh it out and say, yeah, you know, this person's got a point. I need to do this to be a better person. There on the flip side also is to learn to be discerning about the criticism that you get or what you're hearing. So, for example, a few years ago, I was in a bad situation, and an individual had treated me very poorly, and I was feeling very guilty. I'd taken a lot of what that was going on, and I was taking that on myself. And finally, a friend of mine said to me, look, Lainie, this individual, we'll just call him John, he's a really messed up individual, but you're taking everything he's saying to you as the word, as a decree or a decision by a fair and impartial judge. This is not the case. He's a really messed up person. The quality of the judgment depends on the quality of the judge. And that one conversation, light bulb went on over my head. Oh, I don't have to accept this either. But that's part of resilience, is you have to learn to be able to discern. And when somebody who is really off kilter says something negative, you learn to let that glide over you, water off a duck's back. And when it's somebody of quality, okay, you need to take that in. And the fact that they were actually willing to work with you and talk to you about this shows that they probably have some respect for you and that they care about you and they want to maintain the relationship. So that's a skill we have to learn.
You know, the thing with Will Smith, you know, because again, that encouraged a lot of people to think like, oh, maybe I can make a stand for myself too. Maybe I can do something like that. But the thing is, you can't and you shouldn't, because if you're going to go up on a stage and make a fool of yourself, or either that, cause a scene in which you cannot fix, God forbid, however that scenario would work out where it costs someone's life, you know, it's not worth it. And I think a lot of people need to realize that, you know, you are not going to be the hero of the story. Sometimes we're not all destined to be the shiny gem, okay? And for those of us that are able to have a platform, Marcus, Chris, what you two are doing, it takes a lot of courage to put yourselves out there. Lainie, what you've done with Sports Perspective Radio and everything else that you're working on, it takes a lot of courage to do that. A lot of these content creators, again, it takes.
We get it from all sides, Kit. You and I, you know, I just on Hard Lens. We get from everybody.
Exactly, but to use physical force on somebody, of a comedian doing a show. That's not how you get your message out there. And the thing is, he kind of tarnished any kind of message about gentrification or people being displaced from their homes by attaching himself to that silliness and foolishness by trying to assault Dave Chappelle. And the thing was Will Smith, you know, to your point, Chris, you are right. You're absolutely correct in that, you know, he's a millionaire, very successful individual. You should know better. Marcus, you brought that up as well. But I think there was a little bit more of that. That was a build-up. And in my own personal theory, honestly, before everything took place, before the slap, I have to wonder what was going on in the car ride between Jada and Will, because I think something happened on the car ride to the Oscars, but that's the theory.
Well, we believe that something went on for that whole year, called Jada sleeping around with other men and emasculating you in front of the world.
An entanglement, Marcus. It was an entanglement.
But you know, keep in mind they were aware. He was aware of what she was doing, just like I'm sure she was aware of what he is doing. You know, they clearly live their lives differently than most of us live our lives, right? I would say that they're not the traditional couple, but I mean, if she was messing with August, I'm pretty sure he knew about it early on.
Yeah, it's not about the knowing part. It's about the fact of when it got into the public sphere, how other people perceived it in that reaction. And he couldn't handle that aspect of the joking, I was gonna say, the embarrassment of what people were saying about, you know, that. If you're fine with your wife or having an open relationship, that's your own business. But anybody can have their opinions also, and you got to be able to deal with and stand those opinions too.
You know, I remember, and just thinking about this, somebody else and I were talking about it, and I remember, you know, that it was, you know, for example, security was not what it used to be. You know, it was very different now from what it used to be. Pope John Paul II, you know, he was just riding around when he was attacked. There was an assassination attempt, and that's how they got the Pope mobile.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, are we going to be putting all of our comedians behind plexiglass every time they perform? And just one more thing I wanted to mention: King George III of England. He found out he was just Prince George, and he was wandering around one night in London. He'd been out carousing, and that night his grandfather died. His father had died before him. His grandfather died, and they had to send out some footmen to try and find King George III to let him know he was now king. He didn't have bodyguards. He didn't have anything going on. He was just out with his buddies that night in London and doing this. So the security, I mean, I would love to see, I actually have to look into it, but look at some historians that have looked at what security, what personal security and what a security state looks like. But I am getting more concerned after an incident like this is what is going to start happening even with live events.
Yeah. Heller brings up one of my favorite scenes in the original Blues Brothers. Chicken wire like the Blues Brothers at Bob's Country Bunker.
Oh man, I remember that.
That's a hell of a scene right there.
Classic right there. Makes you wonder, Heller, how old are you? that's an old school.
Heller and I are about the same age, so it's kind of cool. But yeah.
Oh, so 32, 31. Right?
You are so kind. You are all so kind.
I'm the like somebody said in there, I'm the old Highlander here. But
Blues Brothers, great Chicago film.
Yes,
except
it
for
was.
2000s. We don't acknowledge.
Yeah, that was.
We don't talk about that.
That was an abomination. That was an abomination.
Oh yeah, don't worry. Jerry, Edward, and I were kind of humoring an idea of doing a proper sequel to that.
That would be interesting. I would definitely
a real
sign up for that.
One. Gosh darn it!
So speaking of Chicago, let's bring up somebody else who is a very known and well-loved person from Chicago. Well, I guess loved and hated, depending on your perspective. But the gentleman here, Mr. Kit Cabello himself, was talking about Mr. Jimmy Dore. And so let's go into a little bit of some of your coverage. For those who didn't see the thumbnail in there, this is a very interesting clip. So I think it's like maybe the first 6 minutes I want to show, and then I want to get the live reaction from Kit and Lainie.
If I can add one thing here too,
Sure.
all those video clips that you're seeing there are all of our previous interviews. So you'll notice short hair Kit, because I saw in the live stream chat people saying, cut my hair. Like, no. We're keeping this. We're keeping all this. This is staying for a while. So there we go.
Keep it while you got it, right?
Yeah, exactly. There
we go.
Let us all that we can to build a better future.
So, Lauren, before we went live, I explained to you the details of TYT, their ongoing beef with Jimmy Dore, the failure of the Justice Democrats. I gave Lauren a history lesson of something that all of you know all too well.
The drama is real.
Not only is the drama real, but also, again, I think it's something that we've been saying on the show for some time. Looks like Jimmy Dore was correct. Again, Jimmy Dore was right. Again. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, a lot of YouTube channels, a lot of independent media networks have been calling out the hypocrisy of the Democratic Party, but also the hypocrisy of TYT, where they've carried water for the Justice Democrats, ignoring them, not really calling them out, because let's face it, they give performative arts, they say tweets and messages that we can agree with.
Yeah, we agree with the tweets.
Tweets are not that bad, but actions speak louder than words. And when Jimmy Dore, as well as Justin Jackson, Cornel West, Dr. Cornel West, Breonna Joy Gray, and so many others in January of 2021 did that live stream town hall where 100,000 plus people attended.
Oh, Kit, I had to pause it real quick because before it gets in that clip, I don't know if you noticed this or not when it shows the Anna clip, but I want you to just watch it and then see if you catch what I caught after the fact. It's going to be pretty interesting.
Well done.
Intended to, again, call for a force to vote. I want to remind everyone, before that live stream happened, there was a small window where Cenk Uygur, TYT, and Majority Report agreed with force to vote in principle. But then somehow someone might have given them a phone call, and then they flipped on it like that and said, oh, force to vote's a bad idea. We got to keep our powder dry. The Justice Democrats, the Progressive Democrats, the Congressional Progressive Caucus will fight for Medicare for all, but now's not the time. We got to keep our powder dry. Jimmy Dore's a troublemaker. All these people who are calling out the Justice Democrats and the hypocrisy of the Democrats, you're troublemakers. You're secret Trump supporters. You're antagonists. You're just doing this all for clicks. But what happened just a few days ago? Roe v. Wade could potentially be overturned.
Yep.
And we're going to be talking about it on the show as well. But also on top of that too, this is happening under a Democratic administration. And a lot of people brought up the fact that, look, there were numerous opportunities under Bill Clinton's presidential administration, Obama's presidential administration, and even Biden's administration, the Biden-Harris administration, could have codified Roe v. Wade. They could have made it happen. There was nothing stopping them, really, in theory. They could have done so if they wanted to, but they didn't. And now we're seeing these same House progressives also trying to, again, fix their image, make themselves look right, and it's not working anymore. And TYT had their little spat where they said they don't believe in the Democrats anymore. But I want to pull up this wonderful video that I saw on Twitter. A few of our colleagues shared it with me, and it's a compilation video of Anna recently calling out the Democratic Party for its hypocrisy, including the progressives, but then also added in there is her smearing and disrespecting Jimmy Dore. But see, when you look at those video segments, all that's not aging well, because we've been saying this about the House Progressive Democrats. They're not taking the initiative to lead. They're following the party leadership, and nothing has fundamentally changed. Don't believe me? Let's play that video.
This full-on attack by individuals on YouTube, on Patreon, presenting themselves as part of the left while simultaneously viciously attacking both the squad, but more importantly, people like Nina Turner. All of the bootlickers for the Democratic Party get so upset at me for telling the truth about how ineffective and pathetic Democratic lawmakers are. Go ahead and cry about it. That includes the squad. I don't care anymore. So while they obsess about us and while they obsess about attacking progressive lawmakers who are our best bet in getting something done in Congress, and what do Democrats do? Do they do anything to prepare for it, to strategize, to ensure that they mitigate the damage that's done by right-wingers in this country? No, they're too busy fundraising. That includes the squad. I don't care anymore. And the fact that he's been a wrecking ball to progressives, and especially people like Nina Turner, who's been a fighter for Medicare for All, tells you everything you need to know about him, period. Him and his clan. No, the reason why I go after Democrats is because A, they deserve it, and B, they deceive us. They lie to us, and they tell us that they're gonna fight for us, and they do the exact opposite. They fold immediately. Now, keep in mind that Jimmy Dore doesn't believe that anyone within the Democratic Party is ever gonna do anything good for the progressive movement. He doesn't believe that a single one of them is actually gonna fight for Medicare for All, and they tell us that they're gonna fight for us, and they do the exact opposite. They fold immediately. That includes the squad. I don't care anymore. But of course, Bernie Sanders didn't go on Jimmy Dore's show, so he's super salty about that, and has been on the warpath against Bernie and other progressive lawmakers ever since. People who are willing to pick up the slack for these disgusting, feckless, corrupt politicians. That includes the squad. I don't care anymore. We share this with you guys because it's important to know who the hucksters are and who the genuine fighters for change in this country are. And I think that these types of situations make it abundantly clear. Whereas the Democrats, hey, Nancy, how's your refrigerator doing? How's your luxury ice cream doing? I bet you do, Nancy. I bet you do. Yeah. Without the strong Republicans, how would you fundraise? You pathetic corporate goon. I'm sure he's watching this, and I'm sure he's screaming at the TV, screaming at the computer, probably screaming at his wife as well, because he's been real good at doing that, both on his own show and when he worked here in the studio.
Fuckface.
There you go.
Well, there you go.
All right. Again, there was a wonderful angel who made that video of that compilation. But look.
All right. I was supposed to notice something. I don't know. I was looking for it. Did something happen, Marcus, that I missed? You're on mute, my friend. Marcus, you're
muted. Marcus, you're muted.
You're muted.
Let me get it. All right. Sorry. I don't know if you see it right there. Stock up for TYT merch. Visit shoptyt.com.
Oh!
Now, at every time that she's speaking, throughout that whole time she's speaking, they are plugging their merch the whole time. I don't know if it was a weird coincidence or but it happened to be TYT merch the whole time she's speaking.
Yo!
And what's a big part of their TYT merch? AOC t-shirts.
No! Oh my God! I didn't even think. You blew my freaking mind there, man! That is it. Hey, Marcus, brilliant catch, man. I didn't even see that, dude. Brilliant catch. Brilliant goddamn catch right there.
I was like, wait
well
a minute.
Done.
Is she plugging merch for her big blow up? That's kind of interesting. This woman is just trying to be a saleswoman. It's kind of the same thing Cenk does. And if you notice it, you know when they're having their little drives and, oh, well, let's get money for the wolf pack and do this wherever, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, wolf pack.
If you notice, it's at the same time on the Chiron, they're asking for money almost every time when Cenk is all pumped up. And so what they've done is now they switch the roles of bad cop, good cop. Now Cenk is start being calm more, and Anna's going off tilter more.
All right, that makes sense.
Wow. Yeah, they can't change up their message because we all know that they're bought and paid for. They're literally on CAA's. They're literally agents to CAA, which for those in the audience who aren't familiar with CAA, that is a very big time Hollywood agency, which they are agents for celebrities, athletes, a lot of mainstream media. And so, yeah, Cenk and Anna are on that page also. And I wouldn't be surprised if you look up Hassan Piker on there too. But they're literally represented by Alyssa Milano's husband's firm.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, don't worry, she's fake. No need to worry about it right there.
Well, that's the thing. All of these people are fake. All of them are fake. And what it is since their numbers, I mean, granted, their subscriber number is still high because a lot of times most people aren't going to literally go back through, hit subscribers and go through it, unselect. And so a lot of channels that are really big, 5 million, 2 million, 1 million, they'll keep a lot of those subscribers. Unless you say something that really pisses people off and they say, you know what, I'm going back to go find your channel and unsubscribe. But a lot of times they don't. So they keep that padded number. But what you start noticing is, okay, say they have 5 million subscribers on each video. On average, they're averaging about 40,000 views, 35,000 views, something like that. You start noticing it 3,000 views, 4,000 views, occasionally a 3,000 view. Or you start noticing their live stream where they will have, say, 3,000 people in the live stream. Now you're only seeing 1,000 people in the live stream. And I've noticed that with certain channels here and there, where that's how you can tell who's starting to dip. Now, I guess you can go to Sabby's level, where Sabby has this she has this kind of I guess algorithm package with YouTube where she's able to go in and compare her channel, the analytics to other channels, and be able to visually see it. Because like we covered like maybe a week ago or 2 weeks ago, noticing the difference between breaking points and TYT. Now, to me, they're two peas in a pod. They're virtually the same. It's just breaking points is not as muddied in the eyes of most people yet. Mm-hmm. But they're both preaching the same message. They're in that same camp with the David Pakmans, with the Humanist Reports, and
there is a difference. There is a difference, and I'm not defending breaking points at all. But here's where TYT soured with a lot of people. Number one, let's talk about the big one: the $20 million of Katzenberg cash that they got from the Clinton donor. Number two, in 2016, after the New York primary, I'll never forget this. Jimmy Dore was still a host on it. After it was very clear that there was, again, election fraud taking place during that primary, Cenk Uygur quietly says, and this was on the live stream too, and Jimmy Dore was sitting right next to him. And if anyone wants to correct the record, because this is how my brain is remembering it, Cenk says, how do we help Hillary Clinton? And
I remember that.
Okay, great. So I'm not going to see now, because I had a few other people confirm with me that just want to make sure I'm not the only one remembering it, right? And Jimmy Dore, he doesn't say anything. He just gives Cenk a look like, you didn't say what I think you just said, right? Which was all shocked, because I remember this, because I was going to get some. I was watching the live stream of the New York primary while getting a DiGiorno's pizza from Walgreens, and I'm like doing everything with two hands trying to pay for it. And I remember seeing that, like, okay, Cenk, now let's also look at something else that TYT did that Breaking Points hasn't done. Hopefully, will never do. $2 million for their four horsemen of the apocalypse: Jordan Sheridan, Sean King, Michael Tracy, Nomiki Kans. Those are the four journalists, investigative journalists. $2 million was raised by the fans of TYT. What happened to that $2 million? Because those four journalists disappeared. Then there's Wolfpack, the failure of Wolfpack. Then there's the failure of the Justice Democrats. Justice Democrats that was created by Cenk Uygur, Association of TYT, and they kicked them out. Everything that Cenk has touched has gone to crap and has failed miserably. He doesn't have that much power or influence as people think he has. And then on top of that, his failed campaign run. Technically, his two failed campaign runs. One where he had Allison Hartson running for Wolfpack, I think in 2016. And then when he ran in 2020, his campaign failed miserably. It just went under. And then when he went against Force the Vote. And then when he, again, went after the March for Medicare for All. And then also, well, let's be clear, the flip-flop of Force the Vote, because he was first for it, then against it. He was against March for Medicare for All. He talked down about the 3-day General Strike Summit meeting that was hosted by Revolutionary Blackout Network. So at the end of the day, TYT has done a lot to sour itself amongst progressive and independents. Breaking Points,
they're not there yet.
Correct that they are two peas in a pod, but they haven't done anything like.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Ideologically, they're virtually the same, except the only difference is TYT, because they've been around longer. I mean, I want to say easily like 15 years or so that they've been around. They've stepped in it in every way that you possibly can to sour yourself to the people. Whereas a lot of people don't realize a lot of Breaking Points was easy for them to start off because, if you have somebody who's sitting on a couple million, it's not hard for them to start off their own network and get a lot of things off the ground on their own. That's the reason why they have so many things that they do behind paywalls and stuff and push their Patreon and stuff. They haven't. What TYT has done has been so egregious is the raising of money from people, these fundraising drives that amounted to nothing. And that was a good comment that was brought up. It took for the pro-choice issue to come up for Anna to get animated about anything really. And I look at it as the same thing which Republicans used to use is, I guess these issues are kind of like merging together a little bit. The same thing the Republicans used to animate the Republican base is the same thing I feel that is being used to try to animate the Democratic base. Because they know, both sides know that that's something that gets bodies out in the street. So no matter if you are pro-choice or so-called pro-life, I don't really like that terminology because most people that are pro-life are pro-war. So you're kind of, and they're pro-death penalty. So it's like, are you really pro-life? You're only pro-life when it comes to, a baby in the womb or a fetus or whatever. You're only pro-life then. Before birth, that's the only time you care about pro-life. After that, let's kill everybody. After that, let's throw them in jail, lock away the key. So I don't really like the term of them being able to dominate the term pro-life. But
I'm just glad I don't pay neither of those channels too much attention. I mean, I remember Cenk from like MSNBC days, and I thought he was funny money back then too. Before, I mean, I never really watched Young Turks like that. I mean, I heard of them, but they just, again, my upbringing is too radical to listen.
I watched them, and you could see if you were somebody who watched it like I did from almost the start, you could see the evolution of them turning into what they are. They were mostly anti-Iraq war. That's what that was like their platform. But nobody ever focused on how they are ideologically on economic issues. And so they were culture warriors on a lot of things. But when it came to the economic issues, they really didn't care that much.
I want to add just a little quick pushback. I did a movie review of Mad as Hell. I sat down and watched it 3 times in a row in one day. The documentary of the Young Turks. There was no evolution. Cenk and TYT, they always were what they were. What they are now is what they were back then. It's just a lot of people didn't see it. And the messaging and power and influence TYT had at the time wasn't there for everyone to see. But what Cenk wanted and still wants is MSNBC, Fox News, CNN, TYT.
Yeah, I'll give it to you. You might be right. I mean,
it was always there.
We could have all given him the benefit of doubt of being more legit than he was. I can say that maybe I've just become a little bit more hardened in my stances, and I could have been the one that moved. Maybe they didn't.
Yeah.
But Lainie, I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on this.
I didn't follow these folks very much. They're of no interest to me.
Lainie, me and you, we here, Lainie.
Yeah, it's like they've long been of no interest to me, and there it is. I don't have anything of substance to add. So,
But I do have
Marcus,
something.
Marcus, I just want to
go
add
on.
to. I want to add to that. Again, these are people who are still not able to fully let go of the Democratic Party, and that's why they continue to move and act and cry how they do. It's one day it's like good cop, bad cop. Oh, the Democrats are shit, and then the next day it's like, oh, the Republicans are so dangerous. So at least there's no choice but to, it's the same old song and dance. I'm straight. I don't even play that record in the house.
I also want to bring up something else too. All this pushback, and especially from TYT towards Jimmy Dore, this isn't about Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore found force to vote through the DSA playbook. That wasn't his creation. He found it. And it's something we all should remember. And it's something like, okay, well, let's force to vote. He wants to do something good, fine. And remember his original message when he was reaching out to everybody in independent media. Look, I know some of you don't like me. How about this? I forgive you. You forgive me. Let's fight for something good. To which I'd say, fine. We're not all going to be best friends and buddies or agree with each other on every single point of view, but forced to vote, what a good fight to rally around. So the thing is, TYT and Majority Report can be angry at Jimmy Dore, but Jimmy Dore called out the Democratic Party and these progressive lawmakers and TYT as a whole, and everyone's seeing it. And I think it's right now at this point in time where so many people are being evicted from their homes and apartments. You have people struggling with medical debt, student debt. There's a lot of economic issues that TYT, as you point out, Marcus, has ignored.
Yep.
The thing is, they can't ignore it anymore because right now it's going to be it's on front of our doorsteps. It's right there next to us. It's breathing down our necks. We cannot ignore it.
It's literally outside of Anna's.
You know what?
Literally, homeless people live right in that very, very nice, wealthy area where she stays, and pretty sure she's just stepping right over them on the way to TYT every morning.
Not for nothing. Even with the COVID shit, and I'm not going to jump too deeply into it, but there were a lot of questionable things that were being said by pharmaceutical companies, executives there, et cetera, the government. There was a lot of things that was not right that you should have done your research on, and you should have been ahead of the curve much earlier, given that you actually do this for a living, right? Like Marcus and I, we work a lot of hours. I say that every week, right? I wish I had more time to devote to this, but I don't. But with that being said, even with my limited amount of time that I can spend on this, it was quite clear that what the official story was bullshit in a number of ways. I see a lot of these bigger channels, in the independent media space, they were waiting or not saying anything or calling people right wingers for having an opinion that didn't go along with the government or the pharmaceutical companies. If you claim to be independent and you're part of the left and shit like that, you should always be a skeptic, especially when you're hearing from the government, you're hearing from Pfizer, you're hearing from Moderna. You should have been like, I don't really, you should have not trusted them to the extent to which they did, and that's what I saw. And now we're at the, now we have this leak from, the Supreme Court.
Hold on, before we go there. Hey, hold on before we go there. I wanted to push back on this comment, and I'll explain why this is important to bring up. Freethinker59 says, even in my own evolution, I didn't pay much attention to TYT and totally don't now. So why are we still talking about them? I follow channels more that don't. Too much soap opera for me. Well, the problem is, like I said before, 5 million subscribers. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of people who haven't woken up, who didn't go through that evolution. And when you have a platform to that level, it needs to be noticed if there are shakes and movements within that. And so if somebody has been a grifter like TYT all this time, and even if they're late to a message, we can get them to put out that proper message and it gets to people. That's what's most important, to get the message out. Like I say all the time here, there's plenty of things which me and Chris will be talking about easily 6 months before plenty of other channels. And if those channels come to it on their own, or if they run across a channel like ours or our channel and they start, going down that message, or they just simply start seeing it themselves, and the message gets out through these bigger platforms, the fact that they're getting the message is what's most important. I know some people are like, well, Jimmy Dore wasn't the first to say this or whatever, this channel over there. Well, this channel who has 400 people, that's 400 people who heard it. That's like a tree. That's that old tree falling in the woods kind of scenario. Does anybody actually hear it? Sometimes it needs for those messages to get amplified on larger platforms. So I'm not that hung up on getting the credit. And I feel like more people in independent media, if you actually care about these objectives, more so than getting the credit for it, it should just be about getting it out to the largest platform. And so even if you force them, because this is what happened with the civil rights era. The politicians were hearing what they were saying on the ground, but it took when it started to rise to a certain level where it forced the politicians to have to co-opt it. It forced them to have to get involved in that message, and that's when you get the movement. Us just sitting in our own silos and being knowledgeable about it doesn't help change anything. It has to become mainstream.
I think also, look, Jimmy Dore calling out a lot of the TYT and these progressive lawmakers was needed because here's the thing. These progressive lawmakers, AOC, Cori Bush, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, they were all on Jimmy Dore's show and a lot of other independent media network shows, including TYT. They don't show up anymore. They don't show up even on TYT anymore. And the thing is, they use that clout, they use that influence, and TYT and Majority Report have carried a lot of water for these progressive lawmakers.
Yep.
And what have we seen by them shielding them? So we do have to call out TYT. And I know there's a lot of people who don't like the drama, but the thing is, TYT formed a very strong shield wall around AOC so that she doesn't receive any kind of criticism. AOC going on vacation, again, with a pandemic taking place. AOC.
Not only that, in Florida, a place which is going completely the opposite way of the narrative which she supports.
Yeah, and so the thing is, you have to call out TYT because they protected a lot of these politicians. They protected them from criticism, and they also give them a little belly rub. But these same politicians don't show up on their goddamn show at all either. So the thing is, we have to say TYT. We have to call them out because TYT is responsible for their protection. Yeah. TYT is responsible for protecting them from any kind of criticism. When AOC deserves a lot of criticism, wearing Eat the Rich at a Met Gala event, saying her staffers apparently saying that Chris Small's group was too thuggish. Thuggish. Mm-hmm. What's that supposed to mean, AOC? Is that staffer going to be held responsible for their questionable words? Because there's a lot. Because let's face it, saying the ALU looked too thuggish sounds pretty racist and bigoted to me. Gotta call it how you see it.
Yeah, it has to be that pushback. Because if you don't break through the shield wall, then and they're uncovered, then it doesn't get to those low information voters, and they won't start questioning the squad and all them, and they can keep doing what they're doing and get no progress. Doja, I almost said Doja Cat. Doja 831, Caleb Mop admission that we have to debunk the bread tubers and grifters with massive followings, like Marcus mentioned. Not everyone is deciphering the establishment propaganda. They are not. For you all that you found your way even to this platform, right? As much censorship and shadow banning that I've gotten. Just on cue, shadow ban pops in. Hey, brother. But how much censoring that this channel gets, the fact that you guys are here, you guys are already showing that you're already in a different lane in your thinking and understanding of things, and you are the elitely I would say the elitely engaged. You guys are paying attention to stuff which most of these people on a high level chess, where a lot of these people are playing tic-tac-toe. They're not even playing checkers. So we have to keep in mind that most of the voting populace is so low level. And I'm not saying this to insult them. I mean, you have a wife, you have kids, you're working crazy hours. All of those things have to factor in. And we got to remember, the system does this on purpose to keep them from ever getting engaged to this level, to finding our channel or to finding Heartlands or to finding any of these other channels out here, which are trying to wake them up. That's the goal in burying channels. That's the goal in censoring all these people from RT. That's the goal. Silence the dissent so the narrative can stand. So let's end that one. And I know Chris wanted to get into you started going into a point on the whole on the Roe versus Wade.
Oh, yeah, so I'm sure everybody knows by now. I mean, we're late because we're always at the end of the week and we only do this one, right? So, we had a leak from the Supreme Court. Good night, Kay.
Kay, thank you for joining us.
We had a leak from the Supreme Court. The majority on the court look like they're going to overturn Roe versus Wade. I can't help but to think this is a campaign tactic for both sides. Whether the issue of abortion, whether you're for it or against it, I'm going to set that to the side right now. The Republican Party, the Democratic Party, their media friends, they're all going to eat off this leak. Right? Because you're going to want to tune into Fox to see what their analysts have to say. You're going to tune into MSNBC to see what they got to say. CNN, the parties, they already sent out emails. I mean, I don't even think the leak dried yet, and the emails are already going out. Help us fight back by giving us money. As if you're not already in the majority. I mean, last I checked, I don't really pay attention too much, and I'm not the smartest dude in the room, but last I checked, the Democrats, they have the White House, the Senate, and the House of Representatives. If I'm incorrect, please, somebody in the crowd or one of the people on this panel, please correct me. With that being said, like, it's so annoying because they're going to make a lot of money over it, and it's not going to affect any of our lives one way or the other. And that's the fucked up part, And they're going to use something so sensitive as that topic of abortion to make a shit ton of money off of it, and to get you, most importantly, to validate the system by lining up in November to vote for either one of these fucking clowns.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Lainie.
Yeah. Well, Kit and I talked about this on our show Thursday. I do the Thursday show, Civically Minded, on Hardlands Media. It's my own show. And yeah, I mean, one of the things that I made very, very clear, first of all, I support abortion rights. I don't call myself pro-choice because pro-choice is marketing language. And it actually handed other people a gift with that, because they can say, well, you make poor choices or good choices. I just say I'm pro-abortion rights. However, one of the things that I pointed out, and we brought up Christian Smalls earlier and Amazon, I think it was the day after the leak happened, Amazon came out with a big PR campaign. We are going to give a benefit to our workers. We'll pay up to $4,000 for expenses for anybody who has to travel to get an abortion or any other certain medical procedure. Okay. They're not going to give living wages. They're not going to build safe rooms in their warehouses that are in tornado alleys where 6 people down here in Illinois were killed and dozens more were traumatized and injured. Yep. They're not going to ensure that people have a right to unionize, but by golly, they'll pay for you to travel to get an abortion. How convenient. You just handed them a gift. And the second thing I said was, hey, you know what? The Dems now have us over a barrel, because they can use this and they can say, hey, if you don't vote for us in November, look what's going to happen to everybody. Here's what I'm going to say. Roe versus Wade was always a very controversial decision. And if you talk to people on various sides of the issue, those who are willing to be honest will say that there were a lot of problems with that. In 1988, I was in my freshman year of college. And I was in a history class where we discussed Roe versus Wade. We discussed various decisions made by the Supreme Court, all of the very, very controversial ones, and that was one of them. And at that point, we could see that there were real issues with that decision. Nobody ever bothered to codify it. So it became very convenient as political football because, of course, Supreme Court precedents can be overturned. It's always been that way. And by golly, you've got some real subtle wiggle room for any political party to work with that. And the other thing that I brought up on Thursday is this. Yes, Roe versus Wade did allow for abortion in all 50 states. And I'm not necessarily, and I'm not going to disagree with that. But what I will say is this. A whole lot of other things did or did not happen that were not to the advantage of the average working person. For example, we saw inflation go up. We never bought, we saw the capacity to have a family where you have one wage earner. It went down the tubes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We do not have health care. We saw the tuition skyrocket, particularly after individuals were stripped of their ability to file for bankruptcy on student loans, which, by the way, that decision was made under a Democratic administration. We have seen, we've seen just dozens of things happen that have harmed everyday Americans. But by golly, a woman can go and have an abortion. And again, I agree that she should be able to have an abortion. I think it's very important for people to have bodily autonomy. But oh boy, whole lot of other things have gone terribly wrong for the average person. But corporations are in a really good position. And now they're at the point where all they have to do is signal, hey, we support abortion rights, or we'll give you up to $4,000 to travel out of state to have an abortion. That's okay, but we're not going to pay you a living wage so that your marriage doesn't fall apart, or so that you might be a more attractive partner to somebody who you might date. And this is where I see many of the arguments that you will see on the opposing side. You'll see faithful Roman Catholics who will talk about the importance of supporting the family, for example. I can't disagree with them on this point, because if you look at Roman Catholic social doctrine, they are very critical of hyper-capitalism. And this is where somebody mentioned Caleb Maupin earlier. Caleb and I differ widely on certain political and economic issues. I like to say, if Caleb's party comes into power, I'm probably first up against the wall. But we do agree that there's room for us all for people on different opposing sides of specific issues to join together on some very important issues, such as, say, living wage and universal health care, and being able to get an education, those sorts of things. So I think this is a very convenient maneuver, and I'm distressed about this, but not for the reasons that a lot of people who take my position on abortion specifically are. It's a far broader thing for me.
Well said. Well said.
That was good. If I could just add one thing to it, right?
Sure.
We tend to look at this, and I'm guilty of it too, right? We look at creating life as a financial decision. That right there is a problem if we're really thinking about it, right? If you are with your partner and you're thinking about having kids, or you're engaging in activity that results in kids, the thought like, oh shit, she could get pregnant, and damn, I can't afford this. The stress and everything that goes into it should already tell you about where we are as a society. Just biologically speaking, part of the reason why we're here is because we're supposed to reproduce, right?
Yep.
We're supposed to try to make little versions of ourselves, and and help them be better versions of us, right? So I say that to say this. I wanted to put up this Elizabeth Warren tweet that she put out. I don't know if it was today or yesterday, but she put this out, and again, the irony was not lost on me, right? From Elizabeth Warren, she says, understand this: abortion bans fall hardest on low-income people, people of color, survivors of rape and incest, those working 2 jobs for less than enough to support the kids they already have. The GOP has turned its backs on them. The rest of us can. Yo, When was the last time that Elizabeth Warren or the Democrats or anybody in government did anything for those groups? Now, you're going to tell us that you're going to help us out now by keeping the doors open for access to terminate a pregnancy. Our society's fucked up if we really truly sit and think about this on this level that I'm talking about. It's not, let's change the dynamic so that the decision to have a child is not purely or so heavily based on finances. It's based on whether or not you and I could get along and raise this child together, right? Let's change the dynamic so that we can not spend so much time thinking about, oh shit, I can't afford daycare, and do I have a car that runs, and does my job pay me enough, and so on and so forth. They don't do anything to change that, but they will keep everything the same so that you can still fuck around and go ahead and have an abortion. That's on us too, right? Yeah. Be a little more responsible. And I know people will say, oh my God, that makes you sound right wing. Shut the fuck up if you're talking that, right? Sorry, Marcus. I don't mean to be rude to people, but I just got to say.
No. You know how we get down. We just say how we feel. Nobody's censored on here except for on the shit that actually gets us in trouble. Yeah. You know, we can't talk about, as Pasta calls it, the boop boop. And we don't talk about that. And it's like it's like 2 or 3 people's names that we can't say.
Yes.
Yeah, but I don't care about curse words.
God bless America, right?
And you know, the other part about it, the other part too, now this is from the left, right? You know, they like to talk about history. They like to talk about all this. Allie, what's up? They like to talk about all this bullshit, right? But what about Margaret Sanger and Planned Parenthood? Like, talk about them.
Somebody brought up a comment. Chris, somebody brought up a comment about that, which I did not know. Terror Destroyer says Martin Luther King Jr., who gratefully received the Margaret Sanger Award from Planned Parenthood in 1966, said, "There's a striking kinship between our movements and Margaret Sanger's early efforts." Which, I hope he really did not say that quote.
Well, I want to check into that a little bit more. I mean, I have to say personally, and I need to dive into this before I make a lot of broad statements.
Correct,
I have heard there's been some misattributions of quotes, and that, you know, I've also heard different things about what she had to say. I think one of the problems, though, and I want to get to something that Chris said, is, and I think there's a racial component, but there's also very much a class component with this, is when we say, well, those people shouldn't be having children. And because they can't afford them. And and to me, that's a real problem, because you're turning marriage and parenthood into a privilege. You're basically saying only some people should be able to have children. And I find that very troublesome. And the problem is that I started to see that a lot among people who called themselves liberals. I saw it particularly around 2008, 2009, when we had the foreclosure crisis. People were losing their homes, businesses were crashing, the stock markets were crashing, we had the Great Recession. And I began to see this, and you would read about stories about people who had to take their kids, middle-class people who lost everything, or who, you know, they got into a divorce and they lost their money, and they had to take their kids to food pantries, and people were going nuts. Well, why did they have kids? Why did any of these people have kids? They would use language like, why did this woman shit out 3 kids?
Mm-hmm.
And it was that kind of language that they were using. And it was absolutely horrific. And they're basically acting as if having children is something that is only for those who are privileged, to essentially have inherited or independent wealth. And not salaried wealth, because what was happening was these were middle-class people who were making middle-class salaries, and that everything went down the tubes, circumstances that were beyond their control. And
to that point, Lainie, real quick, if I'll jump in and let you go right ahead. The people at the top of the tax bracket, their kids tend to be the most fucking they tend to be the fucking psychopaths of the group. Everybody came up with the rich friend or rich kids, or, you know, you knew a rich kid. They was doing the wildest shit, okay?
Because they could get away with it.
They could get away with it. They call mom, they call dad, they call uncle, they call grandma, they call grandpa, Their parents never discipline them because they're always too busy doing their own shit. They leave them on vacation for weeks and months. You know, oh, we're going to France, and they leave the kids at home, and the kids are driving a car at 14, 15 years old. So I've seen like some crazy shit as it relates to people who should be having kids, right?
Yeah, exactly. And again, it goes back, and I'm not a Roman Catholic, but there is this Roman Catholic social teaching that talks about natural law, the natural family, and that a just economic system has it set up so that people can get married and have children. And if your economic system does not allow for that, it is an unjust and ungodly system. And there it is. And that's where I find myself more in alignment with opponents of mine on certain ideological issues, but I think they have a much better handle on this than some of my ideological allies when it comes to issues of abortion and contraceptive. So I don't think it's that simple. And I think that Roe versus Wade, the fact that it hasn't been codified, I believe it has been a tool of manipulation for a long time. And we're seeing that right now. And people are losing their minds.
Quite honestly, do any of the three of you, let me ask you, if Roe versus Wade is overturned, does anyone think that access to abortion is just going to go away?
Not in all states, not at all. Not in Illinois, not in California, not in New
Correct.
York.
That's what I'm saying. New York, California, Illinois, Chicago, all the places with, unfortunately, high minority populations will still have abortion services available. So don't worry, if you want to go ahead and terminate, you still will be able to. So again, that's why I really don't like it, because I don't like the leak and everything that's surrounding it.
That's its own issue. That's all the way out there.
Well, could I say this real quick also? Here, this will be real quick, Kit, and I'll give it to you. Like, for instance, my home state, Kansas, there's literally abortion is amended into the Constitution there. So even Roe versus Wade going away or not is irrelevant for that state. But what's happened is they've made so many laws and conditions that there's virtually no abortion clinics in the entire state. And so it doesn't matter if you have Roe versus Wade, because it's not giving abortion rights in that state, even if you want them. You still have to go to Kansas City, Missouri. You still have to head the other direction into Denver, or head up somewhere into Iowa. So that's what I'm saying. Roe versus Wade isn't it's not the end all be all in a sense.
Okay,
so nasty campaign ploy. Okay, Kit.
So the thing is, I'm going to cut you off, Chris, but I will. I definitely want you to follow up. This whole thing about Roe v. Wade potentially being overturned. Yes, there will be certain states. One thing that does concern me, though, is for individuals, women who have gone through trauma. I don't want to say anything else because you are live streaming on YouTube, but I think we know the trauma and incest as well. The journey to set states like New York or Illinois or California is an arduous travel and march upon itself. A lot of this blame I want to put onto the Democratic Party because they could have codified it. There was no excuse that they couldn't have done it for Roe v. Wade. And the unfortunate other side effect that we're going to see from this is that everyone's brought it up before the ink even dried. Democrats using it to fundraise. I got an email from our fantastic Mayor Lori Lightfoot, using Roe v. Wade, and her then attaching a fundraiser link for her campaign for her reelection in 2023, which, again, that's a whole other story on itself. We cannot afford a Lightfoot reelection. Anybody but Lightfoot. Again, my own opinion on that. But the Democrats themselves using this as a way to fundraise and cause more fear and having people turn out to vote. It's deplorable on their part. But, as Allie's pointing out, it's election season. Come on now, kid, LOL. But the thing is, I always have to wonder just how far will they continue to fall? Like, at what point do the Democrats reach the bottom of the barrel? Have they gone past the barrel now and now digging through the dirt? Because that's the only thing now I could really think of. I find it interesting because it was brought up in the live stream chat. Why do I still cover electoral politics? Because I just want to see just how far these lawmakers are really going to dig themselves in the sewage.
Somebody has to be covering it, kid.
So, someone has one. We have to talk about it, but two, it's like this is the state of affairs of the people who govern us.
Yeah,
these are this is the depth of which they're willing to go. You have Warren putting on a whole song and dance and show showing how outraged she is, but yet she used to be a Republican. She used to be a Republican, and also with the Federalist paper, also with the Federal Society too.
Look, and then you have the girl, then you have the girl from my neighborhood in New York, like crying about cinema. I don't even know. Cinema. Okay, yeah. Complaining about cinema. Oh my God, we can't do anything about the filibuster. So it's the perfect fucking plan for the Democrats. Give me some money. Let us fight something that we know people on our own party aren't even going to go with. But just give me money anyway. I mean, it's insulting. I don't even know why people aren't insulted. And at that point, I got to look at my own people. Like, there's still the majority, like at least the base vote of the Democratic Party. And again, I'm not saying it, let me be careful how I say this, right? All this shit is being run by eugenicists. I keep seeing that word come up in the comments. That should not be lost on people. I mean, just take a look into everything in its totality. Just look at these people's histories, their connections, their organizations, where their money is drawn from. Look what they have you fighting for. Look what you're advocating for. Look what you're begging for. Just be mindful of it. If you want to be irresponsible and, become pregnant, then you should have a choice to do whatever it is you want to do. But just think about what you're doing before you run out in the middle of the street, banging on my door, asking me if I'm going to come vote for Democrats in November.
Well, I mean, at this point, there's not much that they're going to be able to do to get me to come out any damn way. No. So, I mean, and I honestly do feel like Ali said, that this is like that ace in the hole, well, Ali said and somebody else said it about, like, this is something that they did not codify in the law. And it's like, if this is something that is a priority to you, then go ahead and take care of it while you have the votes and while you have the people to back it. But you did not do that. Like what they've said on Hard Lens. I watch your live streams. So I saw when you guys were talking about it, and they brought up the fact of they had opportunity, president after president after president, to do this.
Clinton, Obama, Biden.
Yeah, that's 4 presidents.
Exactly.
You had the ability to do it if you wanted to. You had the ability, and so you can't now. And what this is this is their substitution because there's no Trump on the ballot. Last time they used, Trump, you got to get Trump out there. I know you don't really love Biden, but you don't want Trump back there. Now it's, I know you don't want your abortion rights to go away, so you got to vote for us. And so they always find that one thing which they feel like is, okay, this issue, no matter what, we can still use this. And it's shitty, but that's the way it goes. Like, and I guess I'll lay out like my personal, how I am personally. If I got a woman pregnant, I don't believe personally in myself having an abortion. Now, I do believe if a woman rape, incest, life of the mother, all of those things, I definitely support it. But I also feel it should be. That's the reason why I kind of feel like Lainie made a very good point about the nomer of calling it pro-choice. How that's kind of just a marketing ploy. It was a really good point. I never really thought about that before, but because I've always kind of considered myself pro-choice, because I left it as, well, it's up to you individually what you want to do and to understand. Like, I've heard a lot of people in the Jewish community have came out and saying that through their religious freedoms that it is. Now, I don't know I don't know exactly where they get it exactly or how they define it, because I believe that this is something which comes out of the Talmud more than likely. because I'm very studied in the Bible. There is an exception in the Bible where it does actually advocate for a situation I won't go into reading all the scriptures. It's like, I want to say like 8 verses, but it talks about how if a child is conceived through like infidelity, that spouse is allowed to ask for an abortion. And that's
or a test.
biblical.
It's a test that the woman's supposed to drink some ashes,
the bitter water.
Yeah, the bitter water, and So
it is biblical. Abortions to a degree in certain circumstances are, but it doesn't advocate for just. And then it's also circumstances where, say, 2 men are fighting, and they bump into a pregnant woman, and then she loses the child. There can be penalties, through the Levitical priesthood, all the way up to, eye for an eye. Literally, he needs to be killed for the loss of that child. So that's the reason I'm like, it gets, I don't know, the waters get too muddy for me. That's the reason I always felt like I hand this off to the women and let you all make your own decisions. And if it's a decision where I'm directly involved, then I'll lay my point and, stand my ground on each issue. And it's always fun to hear everybody's, perspectives, because there's so many different areas where it's not talked about. I think the Catholic Church, I'll say this part, I think the Catholic Church is a little insane with how far they go with it, believing that even if you're using contraception, like you're using a condom, you're using birth control, that's some kind of form of murder or something. That's insane. And I'm sorry, I don't really care to offend. Well, actually, sorry, not sorry. If you're a Catholic out there and you're offended by this, then just toughen up. But if a couple is married and they decide, you know what, we want to continue to work on our career, we want to do this, so we're going to use family planning tactics to decide when we want to start our family. That's their own personal decision. Outside of that, I mean, I guess I've said my piece. I'll leave it there.
I would say, since, and it probably goes a little bit further than this, but since the Reagan administration, we've seen a failure of politics grow to such a level. But the thing is, the reason why we're seeing it now become so prominent in our lives, especially after Reagan going from Bush Sr., Bill Clinton, Bush Jr., Obama, Trump, and Biden, is that the American people are realizing that we're being screwed over, and that the politicians who have been put into power, you have individuals who are in their 80s and 90s. They're not boomers. They're from the silent generation. They're from a time in America's history that's no longer coming back. These people who are leading us, these old people who are leading us, have no new imagination, no new prospects. They're not aware of the power of the internet, our instant technology, and so much more. And they're okay with screwing us over and playing this back and forth game, because they built a very clever system of neoliberalism where we're all at each other's throats. And with electoral politics being the sewage dump that it is, we have to at least give it a magnifying glass. Of course, say, look, call it for what it is. It's nothing more than a theater show. If you want real integrity, if you want to see something that's really authentic, watch a Harlem Globetrotter game where they're fighting against the Washington Generals, okay? There's more integrity and honesty there, because the thing is, we know that that's a game and that's entertainment. And the Washington Generals are going to lose on purpose. But with the Democrats and Republicans, they're playing a game with our lives, all the while they get richer. See, the Democrats don't think about the big picture. The Republicans don't think about the big picture. It's all about their money with their number one donors, which is Wall Street, big banks, and major corporations. So this thing with Roe v. Wade, I'm surprised that it happened, that they would actually cross that line further. And I think at this point, there's sort of a perverse mindset with Democratic and Republican lawmakers, including the progressive Democrats that are in Congress right now. How much can they get away with this? Because sooner or later, there will be a breaking point to where you will have people react violently to being ignored for so long. And let's face it, we were abandoned. We were abandoned in 2020. We were abandoned in 2021. And they're going to ban us again in 2022, only except that ask for our vote this time. but we've always been led down this road of being abandoned by our politicians. Now,
Yeah.
what is the counter? What can we do? We
Yeah.
You know,
Says
you
you're
know,
wrong there, Kit. The generals are due.
look, there's irony.
You know what? All right, let's make it happen. The Washington Generals will beat the Harlem Globetrotters. What now? No, we don't want
Look,
that.
there's
I want
irony.
everybody to answer that, because Kit kind of answered that question. So I guess, Chris,
Yeah,
go into yours,
I
and then I
don't.
want you to answer Kelly's question also.
Yeah, I don't think they'll follow through. And if they do, it doesn't matter, right? But anyway, the irony is all over.
Never mind. That's right. That's yours. Then I'll say mine.
Yeah, the irony is all over the place, right? Because you have one side, you have one group of people that had no problem calling people insurgents and telling them to blow their country to kibbles and bits, right? But they want to seem so righteous now by telling a woman, "Oh, you shouldn't get an abortion," but they have no problem in funding the war machine. The other side does absolutely, the Elizabeth Warrens of the world, as I mentioned earlier. They don't do anything to help promote life. They only help to promote death. So all of these people are part of a death cult if we really sit and think about it. And they're all nasty. And it's in our best interest if we just step away from them and stop giving them validation by participating in their system. That's just my 2 cents. Sorry.
What's your thoughts, Lainie? Do you believe that that it's possible that it will Kelly's I'll read it exactly like I like to do with my other channel, reading the Bible. So do you think SCOTUS is going to follow through?
This is, I mean, there's this leak. We don't have the full story about the leak. I mean, I'm used to pretty much believing that leaks are usually intentional at some level. We just don't know at this point whether this is being done to rile people up and distract people from things that are going on. I don't know at this point that this could be something that is still being deliberated. I'm not sure. I did see that there were protesters outside of John Roberts' home, which it disturbs me because this is not supposed to be what the Supreme Court or the judicial branch is about. And that does concern me greatly. But it certainly has got people focused on, their attention is definitely in one place right now, and that does concern me. So if they follow through, then they follow through. And as Chris says, okay, then, they follow through, and there's going to be some states where abortion is going to be legal. Others, the trigger laws are going to go off, and it may actually force action to be taken on this issue. But as we've all, I think, realized here, that there's going to be a number of women who are left behind, who are not able to get into the other states, or who may be facing laws in their home states that can be used to prosecute them. And we know that is very likely going to be very marginalized women who are going to be the targets of these laws. Women who are poor, women of color, Black women, Indigenous women, Latino women, who are probably going to be targets, because that's oftentimes what happens here. So I think that's a concern as well. At this point, I don't even feel like I have enough information about this leak to say exactly what's going to happen. I'm seeing a lot of speculation, a lot of bits and pieces. I think I'll probably know more in a few weeks. But this is very disturbing on a number of levels. But I also think that the DNC is showing its hand. And they're doing it very effectively. And as are the businesses that are aligned with DNC's corporate support and interest. And as I talked about a little bit today on Twitter, I said, this is corporatism. Octavia E. Butler, she predicted it. She predicted it a long time ago. And I think we're seeing this come into fruition at this point.
My opinion, I'm probably the one in the minority opinion here. I honestly believe it's one of those things where the dog is chasing the car, and sometimes the dog catches up with the car and doesn't know what to do with it once they get it. I believe that Republicans have been pushing election after election after election to ban abortion. And since they have been pushing this for so long and, and stripping away Roe v. Wade, I believe the Republican populace is foaming at the mouth for this.
Okay. And
so it can be one of those situations where you keep playing with this thing and then you get forced in a situation and you have to do it. They've gotten to the point where they put a couple of ideologues on the court now that, like, I think only Justice Roberts is probably the only one that might be like, all right, I don't know if we should do this. But the other 4 on that side, in a heartbeat, I believe, will repeal it. Thomas definitely will. Alito definitely will. Gorsuch, I believe, will. And was it Coney Barrett? I believe she definitely will.
And Kavanaugh.
Then that's right. And we got Kavanaugh too. And so you basically have a possibility of a 6-3 if it gets to the court. Now, this is why I say this is the dog catching up with the car. Because if they do this, this will literally be political suicide for the Republican Party. The backlash that will come back on them will be so massive and will lead to them struggling to get back into office. And I'm talking about every level of the government. This would stain them for a political generation.
There's a counter I want to pull to that, right? You are right if they do pull it off, if they do pull that trigger. There's another thing too. You know what that means? It means that the Democrats then have to get to work, or either that follow through with campaign promises. And the thing is, we could get swindled again like we did with Obama. Obama came in there after the Bush administration, and he got himself that supermajority in the House and Senate. He got himself the ability to do whatever he could. He got a Nobel Peace Prize for just showing up. Okay, he got the gold star just because he was
That's
there.
right, kid. Tell him, kid.
And so the thing is, to your point, Marcus, you are right. Yes, this would be political suicide, and there will be a massive blue wave. The thing is, to quote Joe Biden, nothing will fundamentally change. The Democrats will just put in little Band-Aids on an open, gaping wound that is gangrenous and covered with maggots and rot all over.
Also, too, it extends the life period for their campaigning, right? Because then it goes from the midterms, and then you can campaign hard all the way through the presidential elections in 24. So you can really just make the whole next, 2 years just about trying to codify Roe v. Wade and, et cetera, et cetera.
And then when the Democrats get into office, and let's say they get to pick some Supreme Court picks, are they really going to follow through with their promises? That's the key word, because what has been the excuse from the Democrats? And look, holding back Build Back Better. Build Back Better was nothing but it was going to help out corporations, and it went from $7 trillion to $1.75 trillion. Then Manchin farted in Rashid Tlaib's face, and she smiled about it. And that was it, right? So, Build Back Better. You had 2 Democrats, Sinema and Manchin. It could have been any Democratic lawmaker to be against Build Back Better. It could have been any Democratic lawmaker to do their little curtsy thumbs down for a $50 minimum wage increase. The Democrats will come up with the excuse of, "Oh, we got some blue dog Democrats. We got some we're a big tent party.
Max
Buck
is
we're gonna rock the boat. We're having a debate. We're doing a committee for a committee to vote on a committee to address this issue in a committee, so we can vote on a vote, so that this vote can follow through, so we can have the proper person to pick it, but we have to have a committee for that as well." That's what the Democrats are going to do. So that will be the issue with electoral politics. And you want to burn out the American people with that, have the Republicans get their win, and then the Democrats get their blue wave in, and they do nothing. Nothing changes at all.
I think this would be the one time where this would be different.
I don't know about that.
The reason why is because I believe women voters would not stand for this. And the one thing politicians care about more than anything is staying in office. If you can't stay in office, you can't put all these ties together to keep making the money that they're making from all these donors. And when they start seeing themselves get
It's easy
booted
to
out of
be
office.
Marcus, you don't think it's easier to be out of power, begging for money, saying to put me into power, so that way if I get,
but I'll explain. But here's the thing, which I've noticed with the elites: if you're somebody who's saying, "Oh, I will get in there," they don't necessarily trust those people as much as the people who they've already gained favor and trust with. Like, for instance, the Harry Reids. Once Harry Reid got out, he was like a #1 draft pick for the corporations. They're not really sitting there like, man, Jamal Bowman, they don't have that necessarily same level of comfort with that group of people because they haven't built that relationship with them. They know Pelosi is going to bend over backwards, sideways, do cartwheels for them. She's going to pull in this bundler and that bundler and this. And she has so many ties throughout the system to pull in more and more money and flip more things. But some of these other people, though they might have the will to fulfill those same shoes, they don't have that skill of corruption that these older octogenarians already have built in. They are not going anywhere.
I wanted to bring this up. Here's the thing: Democrats are really good at fundraising, especially when they are losing a lot. Nancy Pelosi has been in charge of the Democrats, and ever since then, Democrats have lost governor seats, state seats, federal seats, and she's still the Michael Jordan of doing fundraisers. It's all good propaganda, whether they win or lose. I don't have confidence even in the current crop of new lawmakers, because you would think they would raise the ruckus. Because right now, people are still being evicted from their homes and apartments. We still got student debt. We still have all these issues. Biden, through executive order, can legalize cannabis, pardon student debt, make Medicare for all happen through executive order. In your scenario, here's the thing: the Republicans, if they are smart, they'll be like, yeah, we're not gonna follow through. We're just gonna say we do it, like cartoon villains, like, oh, we're gonna conquer the world, and no. We'll take a step back. They're only doing this to test the waters, because here's the thing: there will be a breaking point with electoral politics if it hasn't happened already. We have to look at other ways to create movements without relying on the politicians. We have to look at ballot initiatives. We have to look at creating unions and worker co-ops and ground roots movements to really put in pressure to take the power of Washington, D.C. away from them and put it in the hands of the people. Because at this point, can anyone legitimately say that our democracy, our republic, truly represents us? Are we being represented by our lawmakers? Because look how quick AOC was turned, Ilhan Omar. If the Republicans do follow through with that trigger pull, removing Roe v. Wade, and then the Democrats come in with a massive blue wave, we all know that they will squander the opportunity. I have zero confidence in their ability to have a super majority to get anything done, because they won, and they're probably not expecting it either. Another thing too is that, how many times have we been lied to by the Democratic Party? Look, we know what to expect from the GOP, but the Democrats have done this game with us so often. And even the way they pick a president now for a nominee, the Republican primaries are more Democratic than the Democratic primary. And the thing is, Trump, while he was this deplorable individual that should never have been made president, he wasn't the worst president we've ever had. We've had presidents order the genocide of Native American nations. We've had presidents ignore the issue of slavery and of also women's rights. We've had presidents ignore the plight of immigrants to where they call in, the National Guard and mow people down. I mean, we've
had presidents who have put our own citizens into detention camps based on ethnic characteristics.
So the thing is, Trump, last person to be president ever in the world. But the thing is, I always have to wonder, he is the rash that is indicating that there's something wrong with the body politics of America.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, whether or not he chooses to run again in 2024, it's up in the air. I'll be surprised if he doesn't, right?
Yeah.
But this is a bigger issue, and it's showing that the system we have is fundamentally sick, flawed, and we are in a burning house.
Yep.
And we cannot trust the individuals who are saying that everything is fine, even though we know we are in a burning house. We have to break away from it, and we have to build real movements, independent movements.
Well, that's
Washington, D.C.
You know, the counter narrative, I guess you could create to like regarding abortion and the Supreme Court and all that other stuff is be more family oriented. If somebody's having a baby in your family, chip in, try to help out, like family. That's what you're supposed to do. You know, I look at other communities, right? Grandparents still live with the children. You know, when they go out to work, the grandparents have the children. So that eliminates your need for childcare costs, because that shit is expensive as fuck. $150 a week, $200 a week, $300 a week, $400 a week. That's expensive to care for a child. If we went back to that, it takes a village mindset. Maybe you wouldn't consider abortion as much as you might, considering because we're all looking at, like I said, from a financial situation. Oh my God, I don't have the money for this. I don't have the space. You know, instead of even playing their game to that extent, we can go that way. I mean, it's about time. Issue after issue after issue. We keep trying to fix the system. I wouldn't say, I would just disagree with you slightly. I mean, we agree in principle. I would just disagree slightly in saying that the system's not broken. The system's working effectively. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to do.
Fair enough.
And the other part is like, it's kind of insulting for them to say, oh, this is going to hurt minorities. You won't even legalize weed, as the cops like fuck with us on every fucking corner in every city for having a little bit of bud on us. So you wouldn't even do that, and you wouldn't even wipe people's records clean. There's people still in jail and in prison for marijuana. You won't even help them on that slight note.
Well, get this. In California, where it is legal, you still got people in jail for it here.
You know, and the thing that really got me about that is I don't use it myself. It's not something that I particularly like or enjoy. But here's my thing on this is, okay, after you basically bankrupt the country, people were in endless wars. People do not have living wages. Both parents are working and they still can't afford to buy a house. You've got all of these issues that we've been discussing all evening. So what do? Well, at least at the state level, they finally decriminalize or make weed legal, something that can calm people down and get them to perhaps, not pay so much attention to all of the stuff going on around them. How convenient is what I like to say. But I mean, and going even further with that, yes, you've still got people whose lives have been destroyed, even if they've gotten out of jail, gotten out of prison. They have a criminal record, which can keep them from getting jobs, keep them from getting security clearances, but also in many cases can keep them from being able to go into the legal weed business. There's money to be made in the weed business, CBD and all that stuff. But in many cases, if you've got a criminal record, by golly, you don't qualify to get into it, even though your criminal record was because you were a professional in this industry who actually knew your stuff. How convenient. So now we've got a tranquilized population and even more money from the people who were already on the advantaged end of things. Gosh darn it. And the rest are still in prison, still in jail, reaping profits for the prison industrial complex. Brilliant.
Yeah.
On top of that, I like to add, a lot of people don't know that this push for a lot of the reason why a lot of these lawmakers who were not big fans of it made that flip around, i.e. John Boehner, because of who was involved in it. I don't know how many people look into a lot of the top families, and yeah, I agree. A lot of the top families, the Reynolds family, which is, if not the largest, well, I know they're the largest. I'm not sure what percentage of the tobacco market, which they basically are, are running. But if you guys, anybody who smokes or out there. Camel, Newports, Virginia Slims. You go through it. A lot of those different popular brands, even dip or snuff, are by the Reynolds family, R.J. Reynolds, and that Reynolds family is the same family who makes Reynolds Wrap and all that stuff too. They are one of the leaders in the whole cannabis industry, and so weird coincidence that this tobacco dealer, it was kind of the one of the top hegemonies. All of a sudden, when they want to get into,
because their profits
the
are going
trade.
down because of the anti-smoking stuff. Okay,
Exactly. Their profits start going down because of all the anti-smoking and tobacco, and that starts happening. So then they start diversifying into marijuana. Then all of a sudden, you start having all these laws that come out about oh, well, let's legalize marijuana now. I also wanted to throw this out there real quick, Kit, because you brought up like some of these, a lot of these older presidents, and about Trump not being the worst or most racist. I can't remember, was it Bernie or was it Biden who came out was like, Trump is the most racist president we've ever had. So I went and did a video, literally going president through president through president. Like maybe a quick minute to 2 minutes, showing like how many presidents were worse than Trump.
Woodrow Wilson, he's up there. That racist little bastard.
Well, another thing, here's something that people don't know about Woodrow Wilson, and so I'm gonna throw this out there for some of you guys, some definitely vintage political matrix research. When you go into Woodrow Wilson came into office campaigning that he was going to be against the war. He did not want to get involved in the war that was going on in Europe, but he did get involved. Does anybody, Chris, don't answer, Lainie or Kit, do you guys know why Woodrow Wilson changed his position?
Well, okay, so according to original propaganda, it had to deal with the Zapata letter, that Germany gave to Mexico, saying, "Hey, we'll help you," which wasn't the case, and then there was the St. Lusitania. No, what it really had to deal with was the fact that there was the crumbling of the empires across the old world, from Europe's influence over South America and Africa and South Pacific as well. He didn't like the idea of these other countries starting to rise up.
They all had to do with it, but that's not the one. It's always most individuals, they care about themselves first and foremost. So you attack somebody personally, that's a good way to get somebody to flip. What a lot of people don't know is Woodrow Wilson was having an affair on his wife at the time. Woodrow Wilson.
I always knew he was.
I was gonna say he couldn't keep his joint in his pants, and he didn't want to get embarrassed and exposed.
Not only that, because he ran, and in that time when you ran as a good Christian man, and if that would have came out to the media, not only was he cheating, but he impregnated another woman, and there was evidence of all of this stuff, and that was going to get leaked out. That's what made him change.
Wow.
All right. There's also a story about him. He was an academic at Princeton beforehand, and it was said that he decided to get into politics because academia was just too vicious.
He had no clue what he's walking into.
We owe Woodrow Wilson a big middle finger because, let's face it, he was confronted by an individual who asked for America's help. He was inspired by America's fight for liberty, facing off against their colonial oppressors. America won. This individual who went to talk to Woodrow Wilson would also be known later by history as Ho Chi Minh.
Yep.
And Woodrow Wilson just told him to basically F off, that Vietnam should be just grateful that it's under colonial rule from France. They will help guide them.
Yep. A lot of people.
Woodrow Wilson, son of a bitch, through and through. I have zero respect for him.
Well, and I remember he's the one who actually played Birth of a Nation in the White House.
Yep, he did. He played Birth of a Nation. He thought it was a really good. He thought it was a really good movie.
Yes. And for those who are not familiar with Birth of a Nation, it is a short film back in that day about the Klan, literally the KKK. Yep. And it demonized black males as beasts and rapists of white women. That
Well,
was
it-
the main ploy.
You know,
It
we can't
also-
control ourselves, Marcus. You know, we see that light flesh, and we just get to like, you know, going nuts.
It particularly also demonized biracial people.
Oh yeah.
And that was something that, you know, I saw it in seminary. I was in a class about Christianity in film when I was in seminary. And in fact, our professor, a black man, he was my advisor through both of my degrees in seminary, and we saw it, and that was something that we talked about in class. Is that it was the most evil people in the film were those who were biracial. In many ways, far more so than the black individuals, or certainly not the white individuals. But it is horrific in so many ways. But it's worth seeing if you want an idea about the kind of impact that early mass media had on people and on the national psyche. It's you know, for that reason. But it is.
I mean, all that played in. And Lainie, to follow up what you're saying, that same mindset played into making marijuana illegal, right?
It did. It did.
You're gonna smoke this, and it's gonna make white women want black men. It's gonna make
Reefer
black
madness.
white women.
Reefer madness. Yeah.
Yeah. It's, you know, I bring this up on this show. No, like it's always about somebody's third leg. I don't understand why. Like, just leave that shit
You know,
alone.
Kelly loved that comment.
You know, speaking of which, we did talk about Birth of a Nation, but you know, we should mention. I hope I say his name correct. Oscar Michaux, Micheaux. He actually made a counter to Birth of a Nation called "Within Our Gates," and it was to show, you know, violence under white supremacy and the lynching of black people. So, if anything, you know, Birth of a Nation is.
Oh, Michelle. Michelle. That's how you say that.
Okay.
Oh,
Michelle.
French.
Okay.
It's
yes,
French.
Yes. Please, you know, this, if we're going to be talking about Birth, let's be sure to bring up the film.
The counter. Thank you for that, Kit.
Yeah.
I mean,
called Within Our Gates. Came out in the 1920s because, again, I wanted to, Oscar Michelle. So apologies for saying his name wrong earlier on. But, you know, let's just be sure to remember that there was a film that was a counter that came out.
Well, you know why they said that the mix was being worse, a person who or biracial is worse. The reason why is because they felt like they can't help that they were born a beast. You chose to make yourself into a beast. And so that was their mentality and thinking, that you are intentionally, you know, degrading yourself. And so they looked at that as almost the almost akin to bestiality in a sense.
Yeah.
You know, that's the reason why, like, a lot of people don't realize, like, a lot of the King Kong stuff that came from pseudo racism about the big black man and the white woman, and early Hollywood is super racist, and it led to a lot of the tenor in America, which media still to this day influences.
Especially early Disney too. Early Disney. Everyone really wants to see, you know, good old Walt. See, modern Disney won't talk about good old Walt and his good infatuation with the Third Reich and Adolf. Well, a man named Adolf Hitler, of course, you know, and everything else. So
well, you know, Anastasia actually like glorifies the massacring of the Romanov family.
Wait, Disney didn't make Anastasia, did they?
Yeah.
Hold on, I gotta see this because hold on, not saying this wrong. See, my brain is playing tricks on me because I'm getting old and I'm forgetting stuff. Anastasia.
Oh, don't worry. Wait till you hit 40.
But it's not. Miguel said it's not Disney.
Oh, Anastasia's not Disney. Are you sure?
Hold on. We're gonna figure this out. Fox Animation Studio, 20th Century Fox. So technically, you are right because Disney now owns all Fox Animation, and they don't own Fox News, but they did buy a lot of the entertainment from Fox. So technically, yes, but in 1997, it was done by Fox Animation. I knew it. My brain not going senile yet.
But it still goes to the point of film in the early days slipped a lot of things into movies. I mean, cartoons in general slipped a lot of things into movies that we didn't like quite even realize what they were talking. I mean, and now I guess at least like some of these they're trying to separate. Okay, this is kids cartoon. These are adult, this is Adult Swim type cartoons, and you can put devil worshiping and all this stuff in the cartoon. That's fine if you're doing it for adults, but let's have that dividing line somewhat in there to what should be innocent. Which, I'm trying to remember which one of those cartoons where they literally got one of the cartoon characters like twerking in there in a kid's movie.
Well, I mean, Bugs used to dress up as a girl all the time, right?
He used to do drag, yeah.
He used to do Emma Fudd. I was just reading, and I was just reading the. Go ahead, kid. Go ahead,
Sorry, I nearly forgot. In the Anastasia film, when they're talking about after what happened to her family, there's like a whole song dance. Like everyone's happy that they're working, that they're the Soviet Union's in charge now, and everyone's talking about where is Anastasia? Like everyone's all like, is Anastasia still alive? Like, well, hey, her family got the Soviet photograph, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, there's a film that actually depicts the Romanovs' last moment together, where there's a Soviet commandant says, "No, we want to have you all together for a photograph. Please get all together." He gets in there, says, "Stand closer together like that." He walks out. In comes like 8 or 12 dudes, and he says, "Stand closer together." They all pull out their gun and mow them down.
Well, it took a while because the women had sewn their jewels into their corsets.
Yep.
And apparently that caused some of the bullets to ricochet and scared the hell out of the Bolsheviks in there. But yeah.
Yeah.
It was I have a whole set of opinions on that matter, which is way beyond the topic of this show. But yeah, here it is.
Yeah. Well, it's not beyond the topics of this show. It's just topic today. But it definitely could be brought up for a later conversation.
There's a much more interesting history when it comes to the Tsarina Alexandra and who her mother was, and the fact that she was raised by her grandmother Queen Victoria, but that her mother was the Grand Duchess of Hessen, Hessen by Rhine, and she was a very forward-thinking woman when it came to healthcare, particularly women's healthcare. She corresponded with Florence Nightingale and was a hands-on duchess. She was helping to spread nursing in the duchy there. It's some really interesting. Some of these royals were very interesting people, but there you go.
Exactly, Choosy. Exactly. Hollywood is evil again. It's all about them. I don't know if it's all about the Knights of Malta, but I mean, everything is.
It has its impact. It shapes consciousness, and the media, whether it's the news media, whether it's entertainment media, it definitely can shape the way we think about things.
Well, it's a reason why places like China have heavy racism problem against Black people when there's virtually no Black people who were even in China. And that came because of the depiction from Hollywood and a lot of the movies making all the Black men had to be gangsters or robbers or thieves. And that's the only major budget movies that could be portrayed. And I mean, it couldn't be anything of them being doctors or lawyers and things like that. No. They only could be criminals.
Yeah, I mean, that was something that's often occurred to me, is that it seems to me that either Black people are either the criminals or highly oppressed, or they are saviors of white people. And very seldom do I see people being, people. I mean, I remember seeing the movie Harlem Nights. And I mean, yes, they were involved in some criminal. It was speakeasy stuff, but it was just wonderful for me just to see people being people. And it was a real revelation for me as a white girl from the suburbs, just seeing this and just seeing people being people, and interacting under whatever those conditions were. And I don't know, it stuck with me.
Well, I mean, something so dead on. That movie brings back so many memories. Watching it younger. But something that stuck with me. I remember it was Eddie Murphy was talking about having his own. He has his own film production, and years back, and he was talking to a couple of other Black directors and producers and stuff, and he found himself going, hey, he's whispering. He's like, wait a minute, I'm in my own studio, and I still feel the need to have to whisper and be scared of what I say because of how much of a controlling impact which certain people have in Hollywood. That even as a wealthy, Black, powerful man, you still don't feel free enough to truly speak your mind.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, as we've seen with, I like to bring up Nick Cannon. When Nick Cannon got himself in trouble, his career basically has not been the same since he got in trouble. And whether you agree with him or you disagree, he should have been able to say whatever he wants to instead of getting like dog walked by a whole community of people, in my opinion.
There's something else too I want to bring up, and that is, when we look at how Hollywood wants to again control character, control people, control narratives, it's really upsetting that there are these rules that are put in to prevent people from speaking out their mind. Like, take for example, Eartha Kitt, who was Catwoman.
Yeah. Oh, Eartha.
Oh, yes.
Batman series, where she confronted Lyndon B. Johnson, or actually she didn't confront Lyndon B. Johnson. She confronted Johnson's wife about the war in Vietnam as well as the field of social issues, and she just said to him just straight out, like, you're not doing enough. I don't support the war in Vietnam. Now it was the end of Eartha Kitt's kind of career. So, and plus us kids have to stick together, anyone who has that glorious name, but nonetheless.
That's good. That's a good one.
Yeah. So it's just, but we see it get repeated over and over again because there's a narrative that not only see from corporate media, but from the two-party system, but also Hollywood, where, you don't want to rock the boat. You could say certain things, but you don't want to cause enough of a ruckus to where people want something done, and Hollywood provides that fantasy and that escapism towards, at least in the film, they get a happy ending. Maybe it can happen to us someday if we just ask politely.
Wow. You see this one, Choosy, you're a fool. Technically, twerking is calisthenics, and it's rude to film people while they're doing calisthenics.
It's an exercise.
You gotta love my chat. My chat's a fun chat, and I think I mean, shout out to everybody out there. I mean, I feel like I have one of the smartest chats out there and one of the funnest at the same time.
I know that feeling with Heartlands Media's live stream chat. I love, here's the thing. Ideally when we move to, like, because the big plan is to get a building. Like, we want to own a building, right? And so so obviously I could do the show a little bit longer than an hour, have my own studio space to where I can do that at the studio, right? Just shooting off the hip here. I mean, I can't predict what's going to happen in 2.5 years, but I want to definitely give more shout outs to the audience, because sometimes I'm seeing these live stream chats and like, that's a gem. I gotta read that. Before it appears. I gotta pause it right there. That is freaking gold. Like, you gotta love the audience. The audience, you guys and gals are beautiful.
I think the independent channels that are more successful actually interact with their audience with the chat. Because again, we don't know everything, obviously. They may hear something, they may actually go look it up, bring something up, and can inform not just you, but the rest of the chat and then the people who come and watch it. So it's definitely a tool and a benefit to have, as opposed to just like, I have 10 million followers and there's 100 chats per second just scrolling up. I think it's cool that you're able to interact with these people. Because if I'm ever in Los Angeles, I'll try to kick down Marcus's door to go get some food,
Well, I already told you I'm planning a trip to come to South Florida, so I already told you that's happening the end of this year. So anybody who was listening to us out there, who are in Florida, who are in South Florida, make sure to try
Everybody
to hit me up and let me know, and that way some of you guys will get to meet me in person. So anybody who's in the LA area, I try to tell them when I'm going out to events. And I've had a couple of people actually have been like, "Oh shit, you really did come out." So yes, I do try to interact.
Marcus, the change down here is incredible. I mean, just to even give you a little bit of an idea, the parking, the parking on the street, for instance, it was $1.25. As of May 1st, they raised it to $2.50. Right? The parking garage, if you live locally, it was $40 at a discount as long as you showed your lease, right? Now that just went up arbitrarily to $85. I mean, the price of and then they block off all this parking to force you to go park in the garage, which is $10, at a clip. I'm telling you, they've changed everything. It's way different. Way different now. And of course, there's a lot of license plates on the road down here. A lot.
Jay says he wants everybody to leave. Man, well, what about me? What if I decide to come back? I haven't ruled out coming back to Florida.
No, you good. We'll just build a wall and we'll give you the pass so you can get through the wall.
I mean, I'm the last one.
Wall, and anyone who eats New York style pizza will have to pay for that wall. So there you go.
Wow.
There you go.
And lastly, and before we get out of here, I just want to ask everybody: Did you guys see Trump talking about Johnson and Johnson? Did you see that clip?
I felt like I felt like I was losing molecules in my brain. I mean, everything, enzymes were leaking out. I mean, brain cells were cracking. I'm like, this dude literally makes me feel dumber when I listen to him talk.
I here's the thing. I actually feel smarter when I hear him talk because I'm thinking like, okay, Trump, what are you trying to say? Be more coherent with your words. I know you say you use the best words ever, and that you're stable.
I have the very best words.
Yeah, just what are you trying? Start again, man. What are you trying to say? A noun, an adverb, a pronoun? What are you trying to say? Coordinate with me. All right. Okay. There we go. There you go. What are you trying to say? There's a lot to take away from Trump, but here's the thing. I do miss him on Twitter, not because of like, oh, we got to rage again, but just like this is he being the president of the United States retweeted a picture of his face on Rocky Balboa's body. A sitting president did that. Now I can't think of anyone else who's ever done it, but it's sort of like a kid in school who gets picked on and he draws like a picture of him beating up his bullies and he's like all muscular and there's like bullies right there pointing at his bullies and then the arrow pointing at me and he's like, like
kid, you don't want to see what would happen if I was president. The kind of trolling I would do. You would get. I mean, like, I do miss the tweets. At least you make me laugh while I lie to myself. Yeah.
No. But here's the thing: I will always want, because again, Trump was always a scam artist and a liar. I will always wonder this. This will always be something that will
always.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, very, 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 very true, Miguel. But here's something that will always weigh with me. Number one, when the first stimulus check, the $1,200, was handed out, the month after, Trump wanted to do another continuous stimulus check of $1,200 until the end of the election, right? Now, the thing is, Trump's a liar, scam artist, fraud through and through. He wanted to follow through with it. He wanted to do it. Now, again, $1,200, it's not enough. But again, I think a lot of people wouldn't mind have that extra pocket change, especially during those and still struggling times. Who stopped that? It was Nancy. Because the reason why
Nancy
Pelosi, that's who did it. She stopped it, and she said her reason was because she wanted to hurt Trump. And I don't know if he would have followed. Like, that's something I want to know if he would. But the thing is, it leads to evidence. What I think he would follow through is that when the $600 stimulus check was being offered by the Democrats, right? Trump did a press conference saying, no, it needs to be $2,000. That $600 isn't enough. He stood against it. What did the Democrats do? They quickly got in front of it. They quickly got in front of it and said, no. It's just not $600. We're going to do more. And then what did Biden and his team say? We're going to give you $2,000. But no, they gave us $1,400 by saying that this Trump stimulus check of $600 was that initial down payment. That's not how it works. They promised us $2,000. So I gotta wonder what would happen under Trump if he really did follow through. I gotta wonder if Nancy didn't put her foot down. Would he have done it? Would he have truly done it? We may never know. Again, the man is a liar. So
he was just on there saying like Johnson & Johnson, they've got more money than they got more cash than cash.
They got more cash. They got more cash than Cabello.
Wow.
Johnson & Johnson's got more cash than
Cabello.
Than Confetti. Johnson & Johnson's got more cash than me. I'm Trump. I'm rich.
He's like, yeah, Johnson & Johnson family's here. They're great. They've got more cash. Oh boy, let me tell you. They got more cash than cash. I'm like, oh, some stupid shit. And it was just like, the crowd actually was very quiet. That was the first thing that was good, was that the crowd was quiet. And they're just thinking like, yo, Johnson & Johnson, the people who was giving people cancer through their whatever, you know. But it was just funny. Anyway, Marcus, we had like just about 3 hours, I think.
Man, we got a lot to say.
I got one more thing. I want to show a little bit of this because I thought it was really, really great work. And then I guess got a couple of quick comments on actually my comments on what's his name? Christian Smalls is just like, it looks like the poor guy is gonna get co-opted. It looks sad, but it is what it is. I don't know. You guys have any thoughts on it? Yeah, it is. I mean, I'll leave it at that. But I wanted to show this real quick because this is another reason why I think people need to be listening to Hard Lens. This is a story sorry, I'm still blabbing. I said, but this is a story that you didn't hear on many other platforms. Now, the videos that I've shared from Hard Lens, I've shared them in the description for this, so you guys can go down there and click on it, and you guys can go on and click on. I put Lainie and Kit's Twitter handles in there also, so you guys can follow them also. So hopefully you guys do that and keep up with what they have going on. But this is Kit and Lainie actually talking about Amazon lawsuit on insulin. So hopefully you guys enjoy.
Let us all that we can to build a better future.
I'm going to move on to our friends at Amazon.
Oh, Amazon, everyone. Let's hear what they're going to do this time.
Well, in addition to their media attention-seeking stunt that detracts from the fact that they allowed 6 of their workers to die and several others are traumatized and disabled, they recently settled a Department of Justice fraud suit. So what happened is, as you may know, Amazon's really getting into healthcare. In fact, a lot of major companies are getting their fingers into healthcare, and they had acquired a company called PillPack, which was supposed to be like an online pharmacy, would get all of your pills together and send them to all of your medications. Apparently, the PillPack was essentially was dispensing insulin pens to patients using full cartons. They would dispense and bill for the full carton, and then they would underreport the days of supply to make it appear that the dispensing did not violate Medicare and Medicaid's limits. So PillPack is going to pay $5.6 million to the U.S. Government and $175,000 plus to state governments under these terms of this settlement. So what they're saying is that they didn't shortchange the consumer, but they were not even bothering to obey the regulations that Medicare and Medicaid have set down. This shows you, I'm sure Amazon can say, well, this was a recent acquisition. They did demote the guys from PillPack within their company. But again, they didn't even have control over this situation. And this was continuing to happen. When this, I mean, the government regulations are right there. I think there's software that can prevent this from happening. Again, this is our heroes at Amazon.
Hooray.
They'll pay for you to travel out of state to get an abortion. They just won't pay you a living wage or allow you to seek safety and refuge in a safe room.
Great point.
And they'll try to interfere with your ability to unionize.
All right. So again, this is a corporate. This is something that was associated with Amazon, and they settled that insulin overcharge case. So again, but see, again, this is happening under Amazon's watch, and what more can be said about Amazon that hasn't already been said? I'm willing to bet that there was someone from Amazon.
But they're pro-choice, you see, I mean, and that's okay, that makes everything okay.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't believe a single goddamn thing from Amazon, and no.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. We've talked about.
Yeah.
I'm damn talking while I'm muted again. I said I'll stop it there because I want you guys to go over and actually watch the rest of that whole video over on Hard Lens. They get them those views, help with the algorithm, help build that channel.
Yeah, appreciate it.
And don't forget to give them likes for it. Also, if you guys are in here, hopefully you guys are giving us a like if you enjoy what we're doing, and making sure that you are subscribed if you're new in here, so you can get more content like this. Hello, bootlickers at Marcus and Chris. Oh, Sebs, you're a trip. And I see Mona. Hello, Mona. You caught us a little bit late, but glad to see you in here. Hey,
That's
Jimmy, how we doing, sir?
Mona Carmona in the house.
Yes, I always love to see Mona in here. We love all of our buddies and friends. But I'm serious. I want you guys to go and check out the second half of that video because they do an excellent job going into the food deserts that are going on in many places.
Which is by design.
Lainie, so Lainie, can you give us a little bit of that?
Okay, so I always knew about the food deserts that in communities usually economically, whether you have a lot of poverty, oftentimes communities of color, they have what we call food deserts, which means that they do not have full service grocery stores where you can get an assortment of fresh, frozen, and canned goods and pantry staples at a reasonable price. And so that they are located so that people of that community maybe what was that? I didn't see that.
Yipper's being funny. It says, "Who was that lady on the screen? This one has glasses. We have a phony guest."
That's because I'm reading all my notes and trying to keep up with everything. But here we go. Okay. So any case, what I and we've heard about these food deserts where there aren't enough full service grocery stores. They don't have to be large, but they don't have enough full service grocery stores so that people who don't have cars or who rely on public transportation can go bring home a few days worth of groceries at least and walk home with them. And you have situations where people will have to drive for miles or will have to take public transportation for miles to get enough food to bring home. And people in these communities will often have to rely on dollar stores. They will have to rely on liquor stores, convenience stores, however you want to call them, where they do not have a decent selection of a full selection of foods at reasonable prices, and certainly not what we would call healthy foods. So I always figured that this was down to economics and underdevelopment, which is certainly a key thing. I live here in Chicago, where redlining was by design, where there were whole neighborhoods of color that were very specifically targeted for this sort of thing. But what I've learned recently is that there's a heck of a lot more to it, that what's going on is that major grocery retailers have been going into communities for a long time. And they will, when they lease or they purchase something, they put in a covenant. They put something into the lease agreement or into the purchase agreement, which means that if, say, for example, you have a store that's operating in that community and they're operating there, and they decide to leave the community, the lease agreement has something in there that says that another grocery store cannot move into their building, or they'll take up a whole area. They'll get access to a whole area, maybe a strip mall or something like that, and they'll say, well, you can't have any other grocery stores in this area. So it does a couple of things. First of all, it means that if a grocery store moves out, it still becomes impossible to get another grocery store in there. The other thing it does is it reduces competition. And we're supposed to believe in the free market here in the U.S. And in this case, the invisible hand is clearly attached to an invisible white hood, because what's going on here is you've got whole communities being stripped of the most essential, one of the most essential things. We've got land, we've got water, and you can't get access to decent food. Well, what does that do to the community? And for one thing, yeah, people will get food. Now, in some cases, yes, they're going to convenience stores, gas stations, and they're buying what they can there. But other cases, people will go out of their way to go to grocery stores. But how much time do they have to put into that? It just takes up more time out of their day, time that they oftentimes can't afford to spend, but it takes them away from their families. It tires them out and it gives them less leisure time, which is poor for mental health. So when I look here, and when I looked at this story, I couldn't believe it. And please do go to see our show, because in the show notes, there's the article right there. We always have show notes. We have links to every story that we reference, because we want our viewers to read and make up their own mind and to hold us accountable for everything that we put out there. But learning that this is by design, that food deserts, it's not just about the economics. It's not about the consequences of racist separation in housing. It's not just about classist and the fact that the poor have always kind of been, poor of every color, have been marginalized and put to the side. This is by design today, that this is being allowed to happen. Look, as I said in the program, I got no problem if you have a shopping mall and a lingerie store goes in there and they say, okay, we're going to come in here, but we don't want any other lingerie stores in our wing of the mall. Okay, I can live with that. But not when it comes to food. And again, it's mind-boggling.
I don't know. We might need the diversity in the lingerie market too, though.
Well,
I'm joking.
No, look, I believe that people should be happy, but I mean, but the thing here is that this was, this is completely underhanded, and it is so. People have known about food deserts for a long time. This is something we've been talking about for decades, and here it is, playing on the noses on everybody's face. Something that's happening that is keeping grocery stores, including competing grocery stores, from coming into an area. Competition can keep prices down. It can increase quality. It creates more jobs, and it's absolutely essential, for a community where I live, for example. And we don't have great public transportation in my part of Chicago. I'm 30 minutes from a 30-minute walk from an L station. We have some buses, but I can walk to I have multiple grocery options that I can easily walk to. And so there's plenty of competition in the kinds of foods that I can buy. But there are whole areas of the city of Chicago, primarily on the south and the west sides, where that is not a possibility. But it was mind-boggling. And that's something that I did talk about in the show. But I urge people to read the article, get familiar with what's going on, and keep in mind that these covenants can often be on the county or the city or the local or a basis. So there may be some real room for local activism to make those provisions illegal. Keep in mind that contracts can be struck down. There can be portions of contracts and agreements that can be considered unconscionable. And this is already, they're already in place. Look at landlord-tenant agreements, for example. Those are on the state and the local levels. And if you can't, for example, waive your right to a hearing before being evicted, it doesn't stop landlords from taking action, but that's right in there. This should be going on with these covenants. Should never, ever be happening.
Looking at the chat, man, we need to have a Rockfin version of this one of these times. I'm gonna have to reach out to Indy, or maybe we'll set it up something with you guys, because I'm seeing some stuff that Jimmy is saying out here in the chat. That's really good info. I'm seeing some stuff that Ali is saying here, some stuff that Thomas is saying also. Really, really good
something
points.
I could recommend to you. If you want us to reference you to try and put you in there, just let us know, and I'll be more than happy to send a message out to Rockfin too.
Yeah, I would love that.
But here's the thing. We made that change where our first half hour of the show is on YouTube, and then the rest of the stories that I want to talk about are on Rockfin and Odyssey. And I don't want to tell anyone what to do, but if you want to do your own kind of show that's different than what you
I watch you guys on Rockfin.
Yeah,
I follow you guys on Rockfin too. So
and we've got a great Rockfin crowd. Yeah.
The
funny thing is, it was not supposed to be happening with my show. I was supposed to be the safe one who didn't have any of this happening, and everything has got so crazy this past week. We had to switch everything around and put me doing my show like everybody else's, because they knew I was going to get spicier when I, for example, went in on YouTube. The fact that YouTube has been forcing out all of its volunteer individual moderators and is deferring censorship decisions to governments and NGOs. Stuff like that. So they had to do it with my show. Even that's how bad things got.
That surprised me also, because I remember when I first started watching, Lainie was more of kind of like straight journalism, not very much opinion, and it was just giving you straight information. It's got to the point now you can't even really report straight information, without worrying about getting in trouble or strike or censorship. And it's gotten crazy. And I remember you guys running into a lot of that same buzzsaw at the same time as like a lot of the MCSC people ran into it, and a handful of other people, when they were all either taking down channels, taking down views, demonetizing this, or even if they haven't completely demonetized you, they'll demonetize this video, that video, this video, so it's been crazy, the censorship. And what we've done, like, trust me, we would like to go to a platform, at least, because I honestly think a lot of the stuff that we would like to talk about in detail, we would definitely have to make at least half the show on Rockfin. If not, sometimes maybe 30 minutes. Hey, this is what we're going to talk about over there. Fun, Dave Chappelle. And then, all right, let's hop on over to Rockfin to really be able to talk like adults, so that we don't have to be, treated like little children over here on YouTube. But I mean, we've gotten pretty good, wouldn't you say, Chris, at talking about touchy subjects and finding the right words to kind of keep us from getting in too much hot water. I mean, we've only gotten a couple of strikes, like maybe total like 5 or 6 strikes.
Oh yeah, for sure. Early on, it was kind of rough. I mean, again, with the with the event that happened, 2 years that we've been living with, all conversations surrounding that particular topic were very fun, very sensitive, and it did make us lose a couple of episodes here and there and get a strike. So
Yipper,
we've learned.
The RBN, the Jon Stewart one, that's because that's a copyright infringement. And some channels are touchy about copyright. But I'm talking about when you get struck for just your content itself and you're not using copyrighted stuff. Like, you're not allowed to have a different opinion on certain narratives in general. And if you're kind of more of a safer channel, you don't run into that buzzsaw. It's only when you start going against major narratives, and whether you're right or not, you should have that privilege to be able to say it. Sorry to interrupt you, Chris, but yeah, I just had to push that back. This is a little different than just wanting to be on Rockfin and say, oh, well, we're going to make this exclusive.
Correct.
Because I've seen some channels which are on Rockfin where some of the stuff they're talking about, they could talk about all that same stuff on YouTube and they're perfectly fine and they're perfectly safe. But channels like ours, channels like Hard Lens, channels like Slow News Day, Frank Analysis, I mean, Misty's channel, Jim has went through like 6 channels. I mean, you know, Jason Burmis when he was on, there's a lot of people who we can't necessarily we are literally, you know, being gagged on what we can actually say, or some of these channels kind of just have a rock fan, just it's a safety backup option, whereas we need it.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, we've been lucky with our channel for Hard Lens.
Oh, I think you're muted, Kit.
I can hear him. Yeah, I can hear him.
I can hear him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's me. My mic went off.
So with Hard Lens, we were lucky that we were able to avoid our channel being completely destroyed. But you know, the bigger picture, and that's why we're doing these changes. Look, I also have a team that I have to take care of, and you know, it's starting to get to the point of, all right, yeah, we still need to be on YouTube, but you know, we'll do the rest of the show on Rockfin, Odyssey, and Rumble too. So that way we're still here. But it's just for me. I want to make sure I take care of people like FaZe and the rest of our other team members that are doing so much for Hard Lens.
And I'm actually, you know, I'm getting this radio station started. And, you know, this is, you know, much of it is coming out of my pocket. Some of it's coming out of the studio's pocket, but a lot of it's coming out of my pocket. I'm trying to lasso, you know, creators and hosts and putting things together. We've had a lot of support, but, you know, this is a lot of hard work, and I have to work full time. You know, nobody else is going to pay my bills. And so, you know, there it is. It's a lot of hard work, and we do have to walk that tightrope, because we can't risk, as Kit points out, additional strikes. We know what happens when that happens.
Yeah. Chris, final words you want to get out there, sir? Because since I stepped on your point, I just saw that comment. I was like, I got to push back against that, because like I know some people who are on there and they're not saying anything that's touchy. We have some controversial opinions when it comes to like Ukraine and a bunch of different things, and we can't literally say what we want to say all the time.
Correct. No, I mean, you know, first of all, I want to thank Lainie and Kit for joining us. You know, that was cool of you guys. Much appreciated. You know, I think we had a good show. I think we had a good program, a good episode. Lainie has a great voice, and she's dope at what she does. Kit, you got to look down, kid. Like, you look official. Like, looking at the older one, yeah, stay like that. Don't shave.
Yeah.
But
no,
yeah, you look good, man. You look good. Other than that, you know, it's the same old shit, man. Just take care of each other. Be good. I see she got cats. She got cats there, more than one.
Yeah, not cats.
Yeah, I saw she had the light skin one before. Now she got the brown one, the black one. Okay.
Yeah.
But you know, it was cool. It was nice you guys.
Both her cats are melanated. You see, she had caramel and she got the black.
But no, it was a good show. They brought a lot to the show. You know, this was good. If we can link up with them again, I think it'd be to our benefit along with the audience. So
absolutely, and to our benefit as well.
Yeah, we'll definitely set up something. You know, have another opportunity to hop on Hard Lens. You know, and get exposed to their audience.
Yeah, absolutely.
We love to talk to our chat, just like we would love to talk to you guys' chat too. I hop in your chat occasionally and chit chat, but most of the time when I'm listening, since I'm on the West Coast, a lot of times when you guys will be starting, I'll be still working, so I'll have you guys here, and so I can't, you know, get on it and say much and go back and forth, and then I'm driving most of the way, and so I might be able to get in. I get in like the last 10 minutes where I can actually, you know, comment, but I'm like, well, it doesn't matter. They all make good points. They all got across most of my arguments anyway, so yeah, they don't need to hear my voice. But Lainie, Kit, you guys got anything which you'd like to? Of course you do. You guys got a bunch of stuff going on. I know that for a fact. But can you let the chat and the audience know, and for those who are going to watch later on, like what projects you guys got going on? What should we look forward to? What can we help out with? If it's patronage, just visit donations, people, whatever they can do to try to help the community in 99 Perspectives.
Well, of course, there's 99perspectives.tv. If you want to see our new studio, we got a great 5th floor studio with a great view of the city. We're working on not only just Heartlands Media, but we also have our Chicago Corner YouTube channel. We also got Chicago Reacts Moves in TV. We got Chicago Plays. We're on with Heartlands. We're on different video platforms like Rockman, Odyssey, Rumble, and Twitch. But also Heartlands Media and Chicago Corner are now also on Can TV, which is a local Chicago public access channel.
Okay.
So we're on television. Lainie has done a phenomenal job with World Perspectives Radio Chicago as well. That's another thing that's associated with the 99perspectives.tv. So check out the 99perspectives.tv, our whole studio and everything else there. If you want to help out Heartlands Media, please consider being a patron supporter. At this point, patrons, you're carrying most of the weight at this point, and I do want us to at least get to our goal. We have a set goal on Patreon right now, 1,500. If we can get there, one, it can help out the studio, and two, it will allow us to do a little bit more to work in collaboration with a few people that we want to, I guess, expand Heartlands Media's reach, as well as to a greater extent Chicago Corner, covering Chicago politics.
Nice.
Yeah, I would only just add on with Kit, do visit 99perspectives.tv. You can link to everything that we're doing at the studio, including World Perspectives Radio Chicago. We've got a stream. We've got 24/7 music going on, including we're also developing our own original programming, including the Chicago Wine Report, which I co-host with a friend of mine. We have Black Music Chicago, which is by a Black musician, Chip Ratliff, here in the city of Chicago. Does a half-hour show pretty much weekly. He wasn't able to do so last week, but it's a fantastic show where he highlights music by Black musicians in Chicago or that have Chicago ties. But it comes from different eras, and he gives different histories, and it's a lot. You get a history lesson along with some great music. And so, we've got some. We also have DB Comedy, The Electables, which is a sketch comedy program that intersects real historians with sketch comedy about all the presidents of the U.S. So we're doing a lot of stuff. Yes, a wine report, absolutely. And of course, No Chalice Required, which is our wine podcast, which is not Chicago oriented, but we do review wine. So we're doing that, but we've got some other shows that are coming down the pipeline here that are coming up. So it's pretty exciting. We are looking for new talent. We are all and people who want to do shows, but also we're looking for new music as well. We do have licensing rights through our streaming platform. We're not yet on terrestrial radio. We're on internet radio right now, but we do have licensing agreements so that if you're registered with the various licensing organizations, your royalties will get to you. So let us know if you want to get music on the station. I'd be happy to talk with you. But 99perspectives.tv, that's the place to get in touch with all of us.
I got a friend of mine who does music. I'm gonna have to set him up. He's a Kansas City artist, and he has a couple of Kansas City artists underneath him. But definitely, I'm gonna have to set him up. And then I do know of a Chicago artist. It's pretty big platform on YouTube. But I'll have to reach out to him and have him, get in touch with you guys.
Please do.
Please. Our studio's open. Here's the thing: we want people in Chicago to come to our studio. If they want to rent out our studio space, we have 2 stage sets set up. Plus, we have our radio room as well. So if they want to do anything with World Perspectives Radio Chicago or any kind of audio project they want to do, we have the whole setup. And like I said, Marcus, Chris, if you're ever in Chicago, give us a ring. You could see for it on your own firsthand account and tell people what you see.
We also have regular open houses. So if you're in the Chicago area, Get in touch with us. We'll get an invitation out to you. But we do these open houses so people can come in and see the studio, because if they don't come in, they don't really understand what we're doing. And when we get people in, we always end up booking a couple of new clients, a couple of new shows when that happens. So keep that in mind as well.
I'm gonna have to set that up, definitely. I mean, I don't know the stuff they're saying, Chris. I might be moving to Chicago than Florida. I'm just kidding, but I definitely want to plan to come out there and see the studio. I'd like to meet both of you, face to face. Get to meet Daniel also. I tell Chris, I said Daniel is like. He's like a silent assassin. Like sometimes he'll just kind of be very monotone and then hit you with a verbal punch to some of these people that you don't think about it and you listen a little bit like, oh, that was savage what he just said.
Well, I like to call that Daniel being local born.
he can be savage sometimes. I remember some shit. It was so cold. That shit was stuck in my head for like a week, but yeah, I guess we'll talk more off camera and chat. Look forward to seeing them more often. We're gonna try to do a little bit more collab.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Last time I talked to Kit, I told him I was going to. I never reached back out, and then I'm thinking, you know what? I needed to do that, and so this was very good. I was so happy to have this hookup and us actually get to exchange ideas and talk. And this was definitely a beautiful conversation that I truly, truly enjoyed. So thank you both for being here again.
Thank you. And we got to do some Bible study together too, Marcus. Remember that?
Yep.
I sent you my thesis. I sent you my thesis too. So
reach out to us as always. It doesn't have to be a year for me not to be back on the show again. Come on, you can
so now
I'm busy, and if I don't get back, just say, "Hey, jack off, pick up your goddamn look at your messages."
And I'm going to start, and I'll make this promise to my audience also. I'm going to start whenever I bring people on. And it goes great. And you guys give me all this great feedback. I'm going to start interacting more. I'm not going to just wait forever to get back to them. I'm going to start, so they really are like a part of the Political Matrix family that we're back and forth on each other's shows and staying in touch. And that's what Chris always says. We always got to take care of you and your own. And so we in this kind of independent community are kind of all we have to kind of back each other up. And so we got to help try to, keep each other's back at all times. So, or as we say in the military, 369. I know you were a former Army, so
Marine.
Oh.
So sorry. I'll blame it. It was John in the chat who's Army. Yeah, that's what I meant. Well, I'm Navy, so.
All right, there you go.
So 369 is covering boom, boom, boom. So this has been the Political Matrix here with my good friends and colleagues from Harlan's Media. Make sure you guys, I'll say it again, if you have not subscribed to their channels, please subscribe. If you're not following them on Twitter to keep up with everything, please follow them on Twitter so you can stay up to date with all that they have going on, and go to their website. I have it all in the description in the description for this show. And then, go check out those clips that we have in there. But till then, you guys have a great and wonderful weekend. Thank you for everybody who joined me. As far as me, I have one thing coming up tomorrow. I'm not sure when I'm going to drop it, but it's going to be going into a lot of this tech that's going on that's kind of replacing workers in a sense. And it's going all the way up from doctors all the way down to, all the way down to servers. So nobody is safe in this. Even people in the law firm, nobody's job is safe from computers. So I know, Jimmy, you'll enjoy that. You guys keep your eyes peeled for that. If I don't get it out tomorrow, it will be out Monday. And that's all I have. Guys, have a good one. Thank you.
Thank you.